I am External Relations Chair for Election Board this year. I'm really excited, thank you, for all of you guys to be here. I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to learn about the platforms and everything. But just keep in mind that we are under a time crunch. So if you guys could keep your cheering to a minimum, I would really appreciate it. You will have a chance to clap for your candidates, but please wait until the end of each question. Perfect. Please keep in mind that if you are being a disruption, we do reserve the right to have you leave. So please don't make us do that. Thank you very much. To get started, we're going to have our SWC candidate come to the table, Savannah.
So I press it. Hello. Oh. Cool. Hello. Glad I get to start this off. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm back from DC, and I apologize for the absence again from endorsements. None of you all came to my office hours, but that's okay. My name is Savannah Badalich, and I'm running for Student Wellness Commissioner for the second time. In the past year, I've accomplished a lot as commissioner, but I feel there is still so much more that needs to be done. I hope to spend the next year improving Student Wellness Commission from within, as well as a few goals, my platforms, that will help the UCLA community as a whole. First, I will continue to combat sexual and gender-based violence by institutionalizing 7,000 Solidarity. Second, thank you, I will create a mental health campaign similar to 7,000, as well as Half of Us, a campaign at UC Berkeley, and using the incredible programming of my Active Minds committee. Lastly, I will revamp the programming of Body Image Committee to more adequately address eating disorders, body dysmorphia, and fat shaming on our campus. While these three topics are important to me as commissioner, the commissioner platforms are not the only programs and initiatives SWC puts on. We put on more than 150 events each year by our other 12 committees and 450 members. Yay. That's cool.
So what do you see as being the biggest health or wellness issue facing UCLA students today, and how do you plan to address it?
That's actually, I don't think that there's one specific issue. Even the three issues that I put are not the only issues happening at UCLA. So sexual violence is still a problem. It didn't go away from 1 year of 7,000 Solidarity. But I still want to focus on that. Mental health is a huge issue, and it's an issue that we don't take seriously as a nation, let alone as a campus. And then body image, specifically fat shaming on our campus, is so prevalent and not taken seriously. So hopefully with the programming that I'll do, I'll address those specific issues. But again, the rest of my commission will do the other things that they feel are pertinent.
And this year you implemented 7,000 Solidarity to raise awareness about sexual assault on campus. Mm-hmm. Reflecting on this program and its continuance, what do you think was especially successful, and how might you change your approach towards such initiatives next year?
Art activism, completely art activism. We were able to engage students who generally aren't interested in sexual violence programming, because when you put on a sexual violence workshop, generally only survivors or allies come. But art activism, we were able to get a wide variety of students, and there's still more to be coming the rest of this year. We're not done just because it's elections. But we have a lot more planned, and we hope to use art activism as a way to get students to just walk into the topic without having to experience it, because it's a really crappy club to be a part of. Oh, cool. So I have a closing? Okay. So it's been 1 year since I used to say "you guys" at the end of every statement. And I've learned never to do that again. I look forward to this year and the goals that I have in place that I want to accomplish, but I really want to stress that the fact that just because I named 3 platforms doesn't mean SWC is only going to focus on those 3 things. A commission is very different than a specific office, and so I want you, if you're at all interested in doing more than what my platforms are, and you want something to be done by SWC as a health program, please come up to me either after debates or contact me directly. Thank you.
CAC is next.
Hey Bruins, my name is Ermery Garcia, and I am your next Cultural Affairs Commissioner. I have the privilege to be here before you because my parents moved from Puerto Rico to California in order to provide my siblings and I the opportunities they never received. I grew up in a household where at times I had to do my homework in the dark because we could not afford to pay our bills, and then evicted because we could not afford to pay for our home. When attending free art classes in my hometown, I was able to better understand that regardless of my economic situation, I do have a place in this world. I understand that the arts was not initially intended to be accessed by low-income people of color. I understand, just like USAC was not intended for students like me. My community was never meant to be on this campus or at this council table. We were never intended to understand our power and that we are destined for greatness. I am here because I know arts can show people that every Bruin does belong on this campus. Vote Let's Act for a coalition ready to act collectively with students. Thank you.
Thank you. So UCLA is an institution that prides itself on diversity, but naivety and ignorance can often turn celebrations of culture into cases of misappropriation. How will you get the campus moving from cultural misappropriation to cultural appreciation?
I love that question because that's what CAC is all about. We do not appropriate. We like to have cultural exchange. We want to educate students what culture is all about. We have nights where just a couple weeks ago, we had Samahang Filipino, we had Baile Folklorico. You know, we are showing students what the culture is on our campus. And that's what we need to do. We need to have these cultural programs coming from those students. We need to appreciate the cultural programs happening on this campus. We need to support the cultural programming that's happening on this campus through funding, through advertising, through any resources that we have. And that's what all of our offices are working on. And especially, you know, CAC is all about that. We love to educate through our entertainment. And so that's what I think is most important about ensuring it's not appropriation, but actual cultural exchange.
Thank you. One of your platforms also involves, quote, institutionalizing workshops in the Cultural Arts Collective for student groups. What specifically is your vision for these workshops, and what specific shortcomings have you seen this year that you think will be met through this program?
Well, Cultural Affairs Commission we have so many skills that we want to share with other people on this campus. For instance, we have the largest student-run festival in the
I've been asked many times why I'm so passionate about community service. I really do believe my greatest motivation is the understanding that the contribution of my time in any way, shape, or form is making a positive impact on someone else's life. And I believe what is special about doing service is its inclusiveness. Because for those that we serve, there is no distinction between who we are, who we may be, or identify while on campus. To them, you're just a UCLA student, intelligent and compassionate, who's out making a positive difference in the community. I think it's truly amazing and a unique aspect of service that perhaps sets us apart from other channels of campus culture. I hope that as commissioner, I can foster this realization and actively engage more students in service. This means creating more opportunities for students to explore, making it simpler for students to pursue any type of service they personally feel passionate about, and providing the tools and resources for sustainable projects. Thank you.
Thank you. So what specific plans do you have for getting students engaged in volunteering on campus?
One of my platforms, let me just make sure I got it, all right, is to expand the number and the variety of service organizations we have to offer to our students. And I think one aspect of that is really kind of making sure that CSC, the Community Service Commission, becomes a centralized community where all of these service organizations that hope to expand this, hope to build, can use us as a resource. Because I feel like we have so much experience and knowledge to offer to these service organizations, and if we can become this kind of centralized group where they know they can seek help, it will help the expansion of the number of service organizations that we have to offer. Oh.
So, what do you feel was a flaw of this year's office, and how do you hope to do differently or expand upon their work?
I think the greatest flaw this year was follow-up in terms of we had so many large-scale programming events that really tried to engage a greater aspect of our student population, but I felt like the follow-up for that was lacking in that after all of these volunteer experiences happened, students didn't know where they could seek long-term volunteer experiences. And so I hope that this coming year as commissioner, we can that process such that we have all of these large-scale programs that engage more of the campus community, but also facilitate them into our long-term service projects as well.
You have 1 minute for your closing statement.
I want to take this time to urge all of you to take an active part in the elections. As an individual who is not actively engaged in student government until recently, I realize there's often a disconnect between the dynamics of these elections and the daily lives of a UCLA student. However, I feel like we all have a voice in vocalizing what we want how we want this campus to be run, and it is critically important for us to ensure each student is heard in whatever capacity they can provide. I'm running as Community Service Commissioner because I hope to be the voice for those students that have invested so much of themselves to do service and to make positive change. I do not want your efforts and achievements to go unrecognized, and I will, as a leader, be a leader for all of your passions and beliefs, and I hope you'll give me the opportunity to do so next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Campus Events Commission is next. Greg?
And I am the independent candidate to be the 2014-2015 Campus Events Commissioner. As commissioner, I want to reach out to and engage the transfer community here at UCLA more. I also plan to prioritize student safety and convenience at all of our events in order to avoid chaotic lines and confusion. And finally, I will be continuing the phenomenal concerts, speakers, films, and festivals programs that CEC hosts every single year.
Awesome. Well, one of your platforms specifically focuses on reaching out to transfer students. What specific challenges has CEC faced with this previously, and what specific ideas do you have for this initiative?
Okay, so the whole reason that I decided to do this is I was at the USAC meeting where the transfer initiative was being introduced, and I heard the statistic that 1 out of every 3 students here is a transfer, and that's a huge community. And also, some of CEC's best staff members are transfer students. And I don't mean this is just like a recruiting tool. I want to make CEC more visible in order to help transfer students adjust and find something, find entertainment on campus. I think it's easy, from some of my friends I've heard that, after even a quarter, it's easy to transfer to feel like, oh, I don't really have a home here at UCLA. But I think that we can do more to reach out and be more visible, and not as in a condescending way, like, oh, you transfers, come to CEC. But I think that it can be a really great tool. For transfers that commute, I'll look into performing, okay, time's up.
What is your biggest critique of the CEC office this year, and how do you plan on changing it next year?
Biggest critique easily is the disorganization at our events. I feel like our smaller events run fine, but anyone who went to Bruin Bash knows exactly what I'm talking about. At huge events like that, some amount of confusion is inevitable, but I think that we can do a lot more in terms of just making everything run smoother and clean air act up. That would involve making sure that we have a briefing before the event, giving each person a specific job to do, having plenty of volunteers, not spreading ourselves too thin, and also in case something goes wrong, if a movie doesn't play, having a plan in order to have a plan for any possible outcome, so that we're not running around with our heads cut off if something goes wrong.
Thank you very much. 1 minute for your closing statement.
Cool. If anyone wants to hear more about the transfer thing, I have a lot to say about that. Feel free to contact me anytime. I think that 2014, 2015 is going to be one of the best years for CEC yet. I've been a part of it since my freshman year. It's been the greatest part of my UCLA experience. I'm very honored to have been chosen as the in-house candidate. And I mean, how lucky are we to go to school in LA, where we have the entire entertainment industry right in our backyard pretty much. I will make it my goal to achieve all of my platforms next year and to make CEC the best college campus events program in the nation.
FSCs are next. Yeah. If you guys could keep it down a little bit, please don't. Thank you. Hi. You guys, please keep it down. Thank you. As soon as the candidates are seated, we would like to get started, so please keep it down in the future. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, financial supports, candidates. If I could have you guys start from left to right. So you get a minute for your opening statements. Thank you.
Test. Hello, everyone. Ooh, that's loud, like me. My name is Gabriel Gutierrez, and I'm running for the Financial Supports Commissioner. I'm a second-year sociology major, and the reason why I'm running is because growing up, I didn't have a lot of financial resources. I didn't have a lot of financial support growing up. I came from the foster care system in Chicago, and my parents were not very supportive of me. When I got to UCLA, I got kicked out of housing within my first quarter. I was essentially homeless for a quarter and a half, and that is not something that a prestigious university should be doing, letting our students be homeless. That's real right there. And so am I. I'm real. I'm here to bring change. I'm not here to tell you that I'm going to bring some program that can easily be done in a week, and I'm not here to bring on a show to you. I'm here to talk to you real with it, and I'm not up here smiling because I know there's issues that need to be solved. I'm not going to be up here singing to you or giving you something that will really not do anything. My name is Gabriel Gutierrez, and I'm your fired up candidate.
Thank you. Your turn. 1 minute for your opening statement.
We, as individuals, are characterized by our passions. They are the things in life that push us, that drive us, that motivate us to accomplish our dreams. When we put our minds to something, we can be movers and shakers and can achieve anything. My passion is you, UCLA, and I will do everything in my power to make sure this campus is better for all undergraduates because nothing is going to stop me from accomplishing my dreams. I have already poured my heart into the Financial Supports Commission, and I am not going to let someone less experienced, less qualified, or less capable than me take it. As evident in my platforms, I'm going to use it to specifically address issues of affordability so retention for all students is more attainable. Through my tangible and feasible platforms, I know I can improve this office to better address students' financial needs. There is no questioning that I am the most qualified candidate, and my experience in a successful office proves that. I am Heather Rosen. I am your next Financial Sports Commissioner. We are Bruins United.
If I could have you guys keep down the cheering, especially while they're giving their platforms, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. 1 minute, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Winnie Gabadores, and I am your Let's Act candidate for Financial Supports Commissioner. I sit in front of you today because of the experiences I have had growing up in a low-income neighborhood, experiences that did not emphasize the necessity of higher education. I sit here because my voice, and more importantly, the struggles that I have faced as a first-generation college student, as the first person in my family to attend the UC, have not been recognized or addressed. For much of my life, I didn't believe that I had the power to create positive change on this campus, and it wasn't until I came to UCLA that I really understood how much power we had to create change. I was a lost first year. I didn't know what to get involved in on such a large campus, but once I got involved in student organizations, whether it be cultural or USAC, I was already creating positive change on this campus without even realizing it. I know I am the voice for students who go through the struggle of navigating an institution that was not created for us. I am here to address the issues relevant to all students. My name is Winnie Galvadores. I am your next Financial Supports Commissioner. Let's act.
Thank you all very much. The first question is for you, Gabriel. To you, what should the larger focus of the FSC be? Helping students with financial issues they are faced with today, or ensuring their financial security after graduation? And just so you guys are aware, since you guys are the first contested office, you will have a minute to talk. Then you will rebut for 30 seconds. You will have 30 seconds to respond. Then you will have a rebuttal for 30 seconds, and you will have 30 seconds to respond. Questions? Okay. Perfect. Go ahead.
So as the next Financial Supports Commissioner, we have to think about what we can do today and in the future, something that will be sustainable for all students. And one of those things is tapping into what financial aid and what resources on campus can do for students. There's been a lot of talk about what's feasible and what can be done, and that's all right, that's cool, but we need to look at the bigger picture. Who is not inclusive in these areas? Who is not supported? Students who are undocumented do not have resources here. Myself as a foster youth, because I come from a middle-class family who does not support me, I cannot be financially independent, and that's why I got kicked out of housing. And I was not told about resources available on campus. And going back to qualifications, I think I'm very qualified. I navigated through a system that has 2% of foster youth actually get to pursue a bachelor's degree. That's a very hard system to navigate through, and so is UCLA. I'm here to talk about the ways that we can do it, the ways that I'm gonna do it, and I'm fired up for this issue. I'm gonna be that person to do it.
Time. Thank you. Heather, you have 30 seconds rebuttal.
When looking at our platforms, it is crucial that our platforms are feasible, because if they're not feasible, they're not going to help the general student body. With my platforms, there are things that are going to help students today and in the future. Today, we're going to build students information and content and the knowledge that they have, so the dollars they put forth today will help them in the future. As well, my platforms are directly addressing financial issues that students face right now and helping with affordability. I want to increase the visibility of financial aid and scholarship options so students can pay for college here. As well, I want to create a parking and transportation scholarship so students can afford parking and transporting to school.
Thank you. Do you have a rebuttal for that? 30 seconds response, yes.
So you talked about directly helping the community, please. One of the ways that we need to help our community is have resources available and talk about what happens when students cannot pay their rent. One of my platforms is actually providing for rent control in Westwood. I know one of my fellow candidates, Harwin, he's gonna be sitting on a committee that helps with, that is part of the neighborhood council, the Westwood Neighborhood Council. We need to push for rent control so students can be able to live by campus so they won't have to be kicked out of housing or kicked out of anywhere else. This is our job as students. Thank you.
Are we good? What is happening? All right. To address the question at hand, I believe that it is important that we make sure that students who graduate are financially secure after, but what are we doing if those students can't even graduate from this school because they can't afford it? So one big thing that I want to work on is a financial aid student debit card, because oftentimes, since financial aid is distributed in full, students could say, I have money to go shopping, I have money to go buy a Coachella ticket, but that's the problem. We can't have all this money at one time, and there needs to be a budget so that you get your disbursement in increments so that you know how to properly manage your finances.
Thank you. Thank you. The second question starts with you. One of the first duties of the Financial Support Commissioner is to investigate and find out what the biggest financial concerns for students are.
Is there no rebuttal?
What? Oh, I'm so sorry. You got to rebut for 30 seconds. Sorry.
So a debit card is a okay idea, but let's talk about how students sometimes aren't eligible to get a debit card. The AB 540 community, sometimes they don't have resources that will help them get financial aid even. one of the platforms that I'm running on is that I'm going to push for DACA to be paid for, because students have to take an extra $465 out of their pocket just to pay for DACA so they can be eligible for financial aid. That's something that I'm going to work for. This is why I'm fired up, and that's me.
Time. Thank you. Okay, let's try this again. Sorry. One of the first duties of Financial Support Commissioner is to investigate and find out what the biggest financial concerns for students are. What do you think is the biggest financial concern for undergraduate students at UCLA today? And if elected, how would you plan to concretely address this specific issue?
The biggest issue facing undergraduates today is affordability. Affordability directly ties back into retention to make sure students are able to afford staying here at UCLA and to continue out on their academic goals. My platforms, all three of them, directly address issues of affordability. My first one is to tackle parking issues, because that isn't within the realm of the USAC FSC bylaws. I want to institute a parking transportation scholarship, as well as provide an off-campus guide to where parking is, the individual prices of lots and spaces, so students can directly compare the prices that they are getting. Additionally, I want to work with students who are on a budget and bring more discounts to campus. I'm working with the ASUCLA to revamp the benefits U system, and I have already met with Karen No to discuss how we can better this for students to make sure they can afford day-to-day costs and to lower those for each individual student. Additionally, I'm working to increase the accessibility for financial aid options so students know what their options are, when deadlines are for certain applications, as well to have more workshops so students are aware of what their financial needs are and how to better address them.
Thank you. Winnie, you have 30 seconds rebuttals.
My opponent spoke about retention on this campus, and as a family head for a mentorship program, I have had the opportunity to talk to a lot of students and see what issues they are facing financially. The biggest thing definitely is affordability, and that's what Let's Act is all about, advocating for affordability, both locally, statewide, and nationally. And as the next Financial Supports Commissioner, I plan on being an advocate and not just doing financial literacy campaigns, because at times we all can't afford this university, and advocacy is a very big component that needs to be addressed again.
Thank you. You have a 30-second response.
I appreciate you bringing up financial literacy, because a task force that I have sat on is the Financial Literacy Task Force, which works with administrators to bring financial literacy back to UCLA so students can know what their financial options are and to better address the different resources available at UCLA. So if they are in the middle of financial crises, they can have better counseling, better options that are available. And like you mentioned, affordability is something that definitely needs to be addressed here on this campus, and that is what FSC is meant to do. And that is what I'm going to do through my feasible platforms. I've already met with administrators and are possible and are going to happen next year when I am your Financial Supports Commissioner.
Thank you. Gabriel, you have 30 seconds.
So my opponent has talked about feasible platforms, and part of the thing is that there's already a crisis response team in the financial aid office, if you didn't know. There's already deadlines that are put on at the websites that students know when financial aid is due, so I'm not sure if that's something that's feasible when it's already happening. One of my former running mates in the fired up slate, Angel, he's working on a loan forgiveness program, and that's one of the main concerns with students. We have to think about what's going to happen after we graduate when we have all these loans, and some students don't even...
Time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Winnie, the next question is for
Don't
you.
I get a rebuttal?
Yeah.
Rebuttal.
I'm so sorry. Rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So going back to the Financial Literacy Task Force, it does extend beyond just addressing the needs, but works directly with students to find out what options are best available for individual students. Additionally, one of my platforms is to create an appointment system within the Financial Supports Commission to make sure we are better addressed with the financial needs of each and every student. Within that appointment system, I'm going to have 3 that are directly community-based, that are going to work with specific groups at UCLA, and to better talk about the needs that they have. Additionally, I'm planning on working with the Bruin Resource Center and the Scholarship Resource Center to better address the scholarship needs so students can have a unified source instead of having to look at these different websites and to find out all this complex information.
Okay, now it's your turn. I apologize again. Tuition is an ongoing issue for many students, especially the aforementioned undocumented and AB 540 students. How do you plan to create more visibility for this population on campus?
As an ally to the undocumented community, I have met with members of the board to ask them what do they need me as the future Financial Supports Commissioner to address. There's a Senate bill going around called 1210 where it would increase loans for undocumented students, but the thing is, all undocumented students can't get a job right after legally. So how do you expect them to pay for tuition after? What I want to focus on for the undocumented community is revising AB 540 so that all students who graduate from high school, instead of gaining 3 years in high school, they can have a minimum of 2 and are able to be eligible for AB 540. And I plan on working with the undocumented community, and I have been to their events, and I have been working with them to make sure that all their issues are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
So I'm tired. I'm tired of the broken promises that these two slate representatives have been giving to campus. Go ahead and make your snarky remarks, I don't care. To make the undocumented students more visible, we have to acknowledge that there's a certain privilege that they do not receive. The same thing goes with me. I have faced struggles that align with the undocumented community. I know what they struggle with. I personally connect with them and talk about how sometimes we can't financially support ourselves, and I'm really about that. I'm about bringing the money back. I'm not just going to put it into my own pocket, and I'm not going to give it back to myself. I'm going to give it back to the community, and I'm fired up!
In the future, please do not go over your time. Thank you. Please keep it down. You have 30-second response. Thank you.
The beautiful part about running with Let's Act is that we are a different slate from last year. We are composed of different people, and although we make these promises to all of you, we make them because they address the student issues that are currently happening, and we're a new slate. I hope you all remember that. We are new people that are going to address the issues, talk about them, and make sure that all the students' voices on this campus are being heard and that USAC is relevant to everyone.
Thank you. Your 30 seconds begin on your camera.
As an executive director in the Financial Supports Commission, I have worked with the Bruin Resource Center, and I have met with Emily Ives, who's a director in VRC, to work how we can better address AB 540 students' needs. Additionally, our textbook scholarship program has been advanced to the AB 540 students, and we have met with AB 540 students to set up their own scholarship program. It's something I'm looking to continue on next year. I will further bridge that gap between USAC's FSC and BRC to better address the AB 540 students' needs so we can make sure that they are represented at this council table.
Thank you. 30-second response.
In addition to talking with the undocumented community and working on the issues that they face, they currently raise funds to make scholarships, but this university doesn't allow them to make that available to students for scholarships. And that needs to change. If an organization is raising money to give to scholarships for their own students, how come this institution is restricting us from doing that? And I plan on working with them to make sure that the funds that they raise can really go to the students that they are currently helping.
Time. Thank you. Gabriel, are middle-class students an underserved community on our campus? And if so, what will you do to address their needs?
That's an excellent question. So I'm not going to talk about how there's certain groups that are disadvantaged. I know that a lot of groups on campus are disadvantaged. With the Fired Up slate, we're going to work with all communities. We're not just going to focus on one group. We're not going to put our selfish interests into one specific group, and we're not going to handpick people to go to these lobbying events or go to a certain event just to say that, you know what, USAC is represented and diverse. We need to go out to the communities and know what the issues are, not just assume that we know the issues. Not everyone is affected by the same issue. And myself, I personally go out to organizations. I talk to people who know firsthand what is going on down on campus. I'm not going to be stuck in my USAC bubble. I'm not going to have office hours that say, you know what, come to my office if you really have an issue that's urgent. I'm going to go to that person when it's really urgent. And the Fired Up slate, we're really about that. We're gonna do what's in our best interest for the community. We're not gonna say that we're gonna put something out there that's gonna be for us. We're gonna be for everyone.
Time. Thank you.
In June 2013, the Middle Class Scholarship was passed by the State Senate. It's important that students understand that this is an option that's available to them because currently it is something that's going to cut back tuition for students who are generally not looked at when look at financial aid. It's important as the Financial Supports Commissioner that students are aware of this middle class scholarship and that we increase accessibility for students to know what money is available for them. As your next FSC, I will continue to bridge the gap between financial aid and USAC to make sure students are aware of the options that are available for them so we can better address each individual's needs.
Time, thank you.
So going back to me working with the community, I've been very involved with what affects all the community on campus. I interned at a legal center where we directly work with Proposition 30. Proposition 30 stopped the double increase on student tuition. That's something that I've been a part of even before I got to UCLA. Before I showed interest in student government, I've really worked with communities before UCLA, and I continue to work with them, and I will work for them for my entire life.
Thank you. Winnie, you have 30 seconds.
Everyone on this campus, regardless of socioeconomic status, is affected by finances. And what I want to bring is a brew and build legend so that parents who are paying for their children's tuition don't have to go through the continuous questions of what are my fees going towards. And this isn't a platform that can only help students, but also directly help parents so that they know where their funds are going to. And that's what I plan on doing. And I met with Christopher Ramos, who is the student accounts manager, to make sure that this does happen so that they don't continuously get questions at their office. Thank you.
Time, thank you. 30-second response.
So we can go ahead and name drop all day, but now we gotta talk about what's really the issue here. Well, that's good that you all can respond to me. This is what we need, someone who can get a response from the community, whether it be bad or good. We need to know the opinions that go on. You can go ahead and go like this, but I'm really talking from my heart and talking about where I'm gonna go with our community. I'm really trying to be inclusive of everyone, not just talk about it, not just use that same rhetoric. You can make all these promises and not be about it, and that's what the other two candidates have been doing, and I'm really the new slate that's gonna bring that change. Thank you.
I am the only person that can speak on behalf of the experiences that I have had on this campus. So if you want to talk to me about the experiences I have had within the community, whether that's working with Samoan, Filipino, and cultural organizations, or volunteering for access projects that go into the Los Angeles community to work on issues affecting them, I have been about community and I have been about USAC. And we need to bridge the gap in order to address these issues. Please give me 30 seconds. No. I think that's the next question. Yeah.
That was really awkward. I'm sorry. Okay. So, your question, Heather. What goals, if any, to make more financial? What goals do you have, if any, to make more financial aid accessible for students, and how would you sustain it?
One of my platforms, Getting Paid, Getting Aid, directly it relates to how students are going to better access their financial aid. Currently, right now, within the financial aid office, there's a unification process going on where scholarships and financial aid will be put under one roof, so it's better for students to apply opposed to having to look at these different entities on campus. Within that process, I'm going to be an advocate for students to make sure that our voice is represented and that we have better access and have better. It's going to be easier for students to make sure that they can access this financial aid. Additionally, I have worked with Ed Flores and Renan Vasquez to talk how we can increase outreach for the financial aid office so students can know what options are available to them, because there are so many people who don't know that they can receive financial aid, and it's important that we do make these resources available because it's going to help retention in the long run and make sure students are able to continue out their academic career here at UCLA and graduate.
Thank you. Gabrielle, you have 30.
So I don't see the importance of showing financial aid available that students cannot have access to. Myself, I've been to the Scholarship Resource Center, I've been to financial aid, and I've seen all these options that are available that they say, no, you can't do that. You have to take out money from your parents who are not supporting you to give back to the UCLA community, to give back to UCLA housing, to support the initiatives and everything that The platforms that I have, well, aside from the platforms, is to bring a scholarship liaison down to main campus. That'll do justice to all communities. That'll do justice to the commuters.
Thank you.
To off
Time, thank you. Time, thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond. Please keep it down. Thank you.
You do bring up a good point in saying that some students do not qualify for financial aid. That's why I'm planning on approaching affordability through different means. I'm looking at making affordability course initiative materials because right now course materials are so expensive. And it's important that we are continuously addressing these issues on a day-to-day level. That's why the Financial Supports Commission has opened up the iClicker Loan Library, where students can save money by renting an iClicker. Additionally, we have the Textbook Scholarship Program, where students can get affordability and more discounts on their textbooks. And I'm planning to expand both of these programs next year and to better address course materials.
Thank you. Please keep it down.
All of us up here are so excited to be running with my next external vice president, Conrad Contreras, because we are going to advocate for the return of. Thank you.
You have 30 seconds response.
Advocacy is a very important part of USAC, but additionally, it's important that we do make tangible and effective change that starts today. And all of my qualifications on my platforms are direct changeable change that's going to happen tomorrow, right when I become the next Financial Supports Commissioner. It's important that we do create real and effective change for all students to access and make sure we are addressing affordability for students that can happen tomorrow, make sure they're able to stay here as UCLA students.
Thank you. Last question for you all, for Winnie. What is one platform goal of your opponents, that you admire?
I'm going to state two that I admire from each of my opponents. So I admire the fact that course students go into Westwood or buy multiple things if they don't have the finances, ensure that they are stable throughout the entire quarter.
Thank you. Gabriel, you have a 30 seconds rebuttal.
One of the platforms for my opponents that I admire is continuing with the financial aid guide. That's a step in the right direction, but there's more that can be done. The Financial Supports Commissioner has a lot of power to support the financial needs of students on campus. We need to start tapping into that power and really utilizing USAC as the entity that can bring that change to campus. Students are not involved with USAC because they don't know the power that it can have to us, to our students. We're going to give back to the community. We're not going to put it back into our own pockets. Thank you.
The USAC fees that are out to the open are very obscure and hard to understand at times. And as the new Let's Act slate, we're not taking money and taking it away from student pockets. We're going to make sure that that money is allocated to everything that we care about. So whether that's financial support, whether that's advocating for all our issues on a different level, that money will not be mishandled under Let's Act, and that is why I'm proud to be running with them. Thank you.
A thing I admire in both of my candidates is their passion to address issues of affordability. I'd like to point out that I have currently already been doing this as an executive director in the Financial Supports Commission. I'm going to go ahead and continue on in the efforts that we've put forth and to expand what we've created. Additionally, I want to continue to address issues of employment here at UCLA by continuing to hold our on-campus jobs fair and working with the Career Center to make sure students that is a resource that is available to them. So I'm planning on continuing many of these things that we've already worked on and to better continue them to address students' needs.
30-second response.
I truly admire the work that the Financial Supports Commissioner has done right now, but the issue is it's not relevant to all students on this campus. I know that because I come from Samahang Filipino. I come from so many cultural organizations that don't see the relevance of FSC, yet alone USAC, and that's why I'm here, to bridge the gap between cultural organizations and USAC.
Thank you so much for answering these questions. You each have a minute to have your closing statements. We're going to go from right to left this time.
Okay. As I said earlier, I am the only person that can speak for my own struggle and my needs. These past 3 years of working with Samahang Filipino have given me the opportunity to learn about my identity, become critically conscious, and have opened up my eyes to the fact that this university has not served all the students on this campus. The sole reason why access and retention projects exist is because students like me, students of color, women of color, face barriers to enter this university and graduate from it. Much of those barriers are financial. I am the only candidate that has worked within cultural organizations and USAC. I have the knowledge of both financial and everyday issues that students face and the experience of working with administration on this campus in order to push forward to create positive change. In my past 3 years at this university, I have not seen the Financial Supports Commission be an advocate for all students on this campus, and I am running to make sure that advocacy is brought back to this office. Let's act.
Thank you. Heather, you have a minute closing as well.
Experience. I am passionate, I am motivated, but my most relevant and most important qualification is experience. Trust this office to someone who has already worked in it. Trust it to someone who has attended our events, sat through planning meetings with administrators, and co-programmed events with other offices. Feel confident in someone who's actually been in Kirchhoff 300A. Need facts? Look towards the Daily Bruin. I have been an integral part of the 2 most successful USAC offices with the best evaluations, the Bruins United-led AAC and FSC. I am here to represent you. The Financial Supports Commission is a growing entity here at UCLA. Our resource guides, our financial literacy workshops, our financial resource articles are valuable, but they have not yet reached their full potential. I will expand our resources to better address the individual needs of our undergraduates. I have tangible and effective means to realistically improve this office. I'm Heather Rosen. I am your next Financial Supports Commissioner, and we are Bruins United.
Time. Thank you. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I appreciate your guys' enthusiasm, but we do ask that you guys stay silent so that we can get through all 3. Stay quiet so we can get through all 3 closing statements. Thank you. 1 minute. Thank you.
So again, we can name drop all day, you know. Myself, I've talked to Vice Chancellor Janina about my issues, and one of the things that I've seen is that as a Latino on campus, at first she did not attend to my issues. It only got attention when I personally called her out and said, you know what, you have not been held accountable for your promises that you've made. A way that I guess I'm more qualified than the other 2 candidates here is that I'm not qualified with helping create a hostile environment where students threw hate speech at each other for 12 hours. I have created and I've been a logistic coordinator for programs that help be inclusive of all communities on campus. I've been going to, shame on you, man. So I'm gonna be that change that UCLA needs. I've been attacked by fellow candidates, running members, and just to sum it up, I'm gonna be that change that we need. People have been attacking me because they know we're gonna bring that change. They know we're about to.
Thank you. Thank you 3 so much. Facilities commissioners, y'all are next. Thank you very much. If you guys could quiet down.
Thank you, everyone. We need to keep going. Everyone, take your seat. If you can't respect this process, then we will ask you to leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If I could have y'all be quiet, please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Hi, thank you, facilities candidates. You guys have a minute opening each from left to right. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Terry Nguyen, and I'm fired up to be your next facilities commissioner. I am the daughter of Vietnamese refugees who were forced from their land because of war. Because of language barriers, my parents could not advocate for themselves or for my brother and sister who both suffer from autism. To ensure a safe home for us all, I found myself playing the role of translator for my family. Doing so showed me the power and responsibility that comes with speaking up for those who can't do themselves. This year, as the director of the 34th Annual Vietnamese Culture Night, I educated over 2,000 people about autism and PTSD. I was able to advocate for marginalized and underrepresented communities. And as your facilities commissioner, I will continue this tradition to raise awareness of community conditions and improve campus facilities. I care about issues such as student safety and methods of making facilities inclusive and accessible for all students, including those with disabilities. As an advocate for change, I will not rest until UCLA becomes a sustainable campus with accessible resources for all students. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could have you guys stay quiet during all of them. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Mercier, and I'm your LETSAC candidate for Facilities Commissioner. When I came to UCLA 3 years ago, I didn't feel safe or welcomed. Whether I was on my floor or walking around Westwood, I felt as if people were judging me. In fact, I knew they were. Police questioned my whereabouts, and my classmates assumed I was only accepted to UCLA on an athletic scholarship or because of the color of my skin. Constantly being devalued and targeted pushed me to find community in the African Student Union and the Cultural Affairs Commission, and encouraged me to be the student voice in spaces like the Woodin Center Board of Governors. And that's why I'm the best candidate for Facilities Commissioner. My time in these orgs has allowed me to put on programming that is crucial to the college experience and life experience. As an underrepresented student, I know that I was not meant to set foot on this campus, let alone graduate in places like Royce Hall. I'm the only candidate who has been in these spaces and understands the importance of our access to these facilities and can also work with admin to protect and expand them. My name is Alex Mercier, and I'm ready to act.
Time, thank you.
Shouts out to my mom watching. Love you, Mom.
Please stay quiet during this time. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carlos Quintanilla, and I'm your Bruins United candidate for the USAC Facilities Commission. Having worked in USAC for the past 3 years, I know what it takes to be successful and how to effectively facilitate tangible change. But USAC experience is far from enough. To be a true representative for the student body, a candidate needs to have a wide understanding of this through my involvements with the Office of Residential Life, the Community Programs Office, and the arts community. I've been told repeatedly that for a council member, significant USAC experience isn't everything. But for the position of the Facilities Commission, a position educating students on relevant issues to the Facilities Commission, such as water conservation. Commissioner with Bruins United.
Large venues.
Campus, I know what it's putting the bureaucracy that goes in the booking rooms and making sure that with that, the effective use of it, I can show students at all the accessible and available facilities on this campus.
You have a 30-second response.
It's extremely important that we ensure that our student groups have the ability to access these spaces. Teams and other performance groups really be having a space to practice. How can our culture? So it's essential that we make these things streamlined and that we allow our students to have easy access to them. And by even putting a page on the recreation website that doesn't exist right now for students to reserve space and really have access to them. So that's something I'm really excited to bring.
Time. Thank you. You have a 30-second response.
One of my platforms is actually to make facilities more accessible to all students, including students with disabilities. And how I plan to do that, or I've already begun, is straying away from just using Facebook and doodles, and rather actually working with the facilities office and along with other talented students on this campus, that to create a centralized system where students can visually see what buildings are available. And by looking at UCLA as a landscape where we can look at making more facilities that we've never seen before accessible to students.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
Both of my colleagues here have mentioned centralizing access to facilities, and I've already working with Recreation to make sure that next year we are advertising the new system that Recreation is developing. They are centralizing reservations for Poly Pavilion, the Woodin Center, Sunset Recreation, and all other recreation facilities. And Rich Milan, Director of Facilities in Recreation, is committed to making sure that he's partnering with me as your next Facilities Commissioner next year.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds, excuse me.
I have also met with the Executive Director of Recreation, McDeluca, and he has told me about the new streamlining processes that he just created for Woodin, all the other facilities that my opponent just said. What I plan to do is actually working with him and using my seat on the Woodin Board of Governors and telling students about this new system where I am the liaison between the three main systems that students use, Kirchhoff, Ackerman, and Woodin, so I can effectively work together and create an effective system.
Time. Thank you. The next question is for you. Many of the FC candidates have brought up the issue of sustainability in their platforms. However, given the tight budget of many students, how do you intend to address issues of sustainability without raising unnecessary costs?
That's the beautiful thing about my rooftop garden. It aims at directly cutting the cost of being a student and living, just even eating. The purpose of this garden is to allow students to have greater access to the healthy lifestyle that we all need. I live south of Wilshire right now, and just being off campus and not having swipes has made living really difficult, and just having, being able to eat a salad, something simple as that, really difficult. And so by having this rooftop garden that's self-sustaining and will provide food back to students is essential so that we can continue to live a healthy lifestyle, but that also, that it will reach back to the community and allow schools that don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables so that the children will be able to eat healthy meals on a daily basis, because that's essential. Coming from Inglewood, where we didn't have fresh access to these resources, not seeing fresh fruits and vegetables every day until I came to UCLA is a huge injustice, and I can't wait to have students really engage with this garden.
Time, thank you.
While I love the idea of a rooftop garden, unfortunately the place where it was begun was at Princeton, and the climate from Princeton is very different from Southern California. Those types of fresh vegetables and plants that are growing in Princeton cannot be sustainable here. And that also, if they were planted here, they would take a lot of water, and that is in direct opposition to the sustainability goals that our university has.
Please keep it down, thank you. You have 30 seconds.
So contrary to what my opponent just said, I've actually already met with the Director and Chief of Sustainability, Noreen Katz, and she guided me and showed me all of these hydroponic systems that allow all of these plants to grow and to nourish and to flourish in a matter of weeks. And so that means that we're planting these, we are growing them in a matter of weeks, we're bringing them to the students in little as 4 weeks, and then we're seeing the profits from those go back into the garden so that it's working on its own and it's self-sustaining.
Time, thank you. You have 30 seconds.
Sustainability is a great thing, and how I wanted to redefine that is to actually put our efforts into making sure that the facilities office is outreaching to students more than just a group of 50 or a small number, and making sure that the implementations that I plan on doing affects all students on this campus. And I've actually been working with the facilities management department, and they've ensured that all the projects that I have been doing will be coming out not from student fees, but from available funds from their department, like installation of lights, which I have been already being blueprinting.
Time. Thank you.
Yes.
So yes, this garden, we wouldn't be able to start it where all of campus would be able to live a healthy lifestyle and live sustainably. That's not realistic. But the purpose of this is to lay the foundation. Nothing like this has happened at UCLA before. And to me, that doesn't make sense. We're in an urban center where we need to feed our people. And with this garden, it's completely self-sustaining. Funding will come from outside sources, from partnerships with the community. And it's really branching out to everyone and bringing everyone into the healthy lifestyle that we need.
Thank you. The next question is for you. What do you see the facilities commissioner's role with campus safety, and what specific plans do you have to address issues of student safety?
I think the facilities commissioner plays an important role in safety in two different aspects. First, safety is physical, and also safety is something that can be tied to campus climate. For physical safety, the facilities commissioner sits on the Campus Safety Alliance, which has the UCPD, the fire department, the Bruin Resource Center, the LGBT Center, and also members of the Office of Residential Life, where we can connect students to these safety resources. But in terms of campus climate, we should also take an active step next year at making sure that the facilities commission is working on building safe spaces. And next year, I will institutionalize an innovation grant, which provides funding to staff, students, and faculty for projects that are promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion on this campus. Thank you.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
Sustainability on this campus starts with making sure that students don't spend their funds. However, I feel like making sure that I build close relationships with have been building close relationships with the facilities department and ensuring that the installations of infrastructures last well beyond my term. While I like installing lights and as making sure that all the elevators on this campus are in working order so that the mentality of all students while working, all the mentality of all students is safe.
Time. Thank you. You have a 30-second response.
Since I agree with my opponent, I'd like to take this time to talk about other platforms. I also want to make sure that next year we are centralizing student sustainability efforts by developing an undergraduate sustainability resource center. This will not only connect organizations doing work in sustainability, but will also create a resource center for students who are interested in sustainability who may not have been engaged in the past to become engaged in the future.
And you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I believe the question was on safety. So I constantly feel unsafe on this campus. And I think that with I know with my oversight committee, having student involvement and faculty involvement and bringing UCPD directly in this space so we can educate each other on how they can better serve us and how we can better function as partners, because that's what we are, right? They're here to protect us, and we as students need to better understand what are our rights, how can we better interact with these people if they're gonna be here. We as students aren't going away anytime soon, and they aren't going away anytime soon, so we need to facilitate this relationship and make it healthy as possible.
Time. Thank you.
Again, I completely agree with my opponent. And in terms of outreaching to UCPD, we need to be sure that we are a vocal member on the Campus Safety Alliance, which already has representatives from the UCPD on this committee, making sure that student needs and student safety needs are addressed to the UCPD. In terms of creating resources and education on rights for our students, the Campus Safety Alliance, the Facilities Commission, and the Internal Vice President's Office already coordinate campus safety day to educate students on safety resources.
This question is for you, Terry. What do you foresee to be the biggest challenge you will face in implementing your vision for the FC position, and how will you address it?
I think my biggest challenge will be funding, as well as making sure that all of my platforms are accomplished within a year. But that isn't my main focus. I want to make sure that the relationships that I build with administrators that I have already begun making ensure that all my plans are a go, and they have. They are behind me every step of the way. As I've tried to mention before, I've been working on installing lights in South Campus to ensure that the safety of all students. And recently, I drafted a blueprint of the possibility of actually installing these lights and working with Eric Oldstrup, who's one of the experts of elevators on this campus, making sure that obviously it's going to take years for things like this to happen. But I'm going to make sure, but it is going to happen, as well as having platforms that can be achieved within this year, like expanding the Wi-Fi and making a payment.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
So it's hugely important that we are watching every step of the way of their fees to begin with, and then down the road making sure that we can pay for them, right? And everything with my platforms are completely feasible. I've met with all the key administrators, and they've all given me the green light. They've said that we're ready for this. We hope that you are. We can't wait till you're in office so we can make this happen. Now, with funding, we need to make sure that we aren't tapping into student fees, that we're working with our budgets responsibly to make sure that we are not going over budget, not tapping into things we're not supposed to.
Thank you.
I'm a person who likes to challenge myself. And challenging myself doesn't mean that I can't overcome them. And that was shown over my past directing with Vietnamese Culture Night and the funding towards that. And yes, I do want to see every single aspect of my platforms become alive, but I want to use the maximum amount of time during my time in office to ensure that that foundation is laid out so that administrators can be held accountable to all of this happening, as well as
Time. Thank you.
platforms.
You have a 30-second response period.
In reference to the question, I will face no challenges next year with completing my platforms. And this is because of my experiences. I've been doing this work since my freshman year here in student government. But referencing my innovation grant again, I've already met with Christine Littleton, who is the Vice Provost for Diversity and Faculty Life, who's ensured that we will be creating a $100,000 funding grant for campus climate initiatives. And also in reference to Sustainability Resource Center, this will be accomplished before the end of this year. Thank you.
30 seconds.
My only challenge is time, but time isn't a limit to how much influence I can have over these students. When I install things like lights or making sure that students to ensure the safety of students so that elevator permits aren't expired, this lasts well past my term in office. And working with administrators like in the IT team, I can expand the Wi-Fi in places that students don't necessarily have access to, and it helps everyone.
I appreciate you guys being quiet during their answers. Thank you. Next question is for you. Why do you think the goals you set as FC are more valuable to the student body than that of your opponents?
The goals I've set are more valuable because they actually do things. I am as a representative, am not here to just talk to you. I'm not here to just say, hey, let's do a program that, will educate you about these things. I can Google search and educate myself. I can watch the news and educate myself. My purpose here as a representative is to ensure that I'm doing the work necessary that affects everyone. Things that create tangible change on this campus that not only affect us now, but affect those tomorrow. So with my oversight committee, that's a continual thing. The Campus Safety Alliance has a day for campus safety. That's not okay. I feel unsafe almost every day. So what about the rest of the year? So with my with my oversight committee, that allows students, faculty, and UCPD to interact on a weekly basis. With my garden, that's something that students will be accessing as long as they're here, and as long as they need to eat, they'll have some place to go to get fresh, healthy.
You have 30 seconds.
While Google is an amazing educational resource, often the UCLA students on this campus don't take the time to actively engage with these issues. You can take, for example, the school-to-prison pipeline or white privilege. These are issues that students need to be educating themselves on. And next year as Facilities Commissioner, I want to educate students on relevant issues to this commission. I will make sure that we are educating students on issues of sustainability such as water conservation and making sure that we are forcing ASUCLA to convert its waste systems to composting.
Time, thank you. 30 seconds.
Just holding a program to educate someone, to me, means nothing. I'm out in the streets working with people. I'm out in the communities talking to people. I'm out in the streets putting on programs for people so that they see, not that they just hear someone talking to them, that they see the effects of these things on the communities and on the people themselves. It's important that we are actively striking a chord with individuals in the heart, not just saying, hey, this is a good idea, you should recycle more, you should turn your shower off, or you should turn your leaky faucets off.
Time,
no,
thank you.
Need to be doing.
Thank you.
My opponent speaks about the effects, having students see the effects of what he plans to implement this next year. You will see, although it's not physically tangible, you will see exactly what I plan to establish and accomplish. I think something like Wi-Fi will help students be able to do so much more in the spaces that they're given on this campus, making it accessible to everyone, and also making sure that I find spaces on this campus so students aren't practicing in parking lots and spitting out black mucus.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's true. That happened. That happened.
You have 30 seconds.
Now, if I'm a voter, I'm going to need to see tangible results of things that you promised. If you tell me I'm going to do something, I need to see that it's being done. I want to see something physical that says, hey, we did this. We accomplished this as an office. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to have this garden. Whether I'm in this office or not, this garden is going to happen. This oversight committee is going to happen. So it's not a matter of this, the office is a title, and this is a matter of means to have more influence. But me as a student, I know my power and my ability to advocate for change.
Time. The last question for y'all is for you. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. What are some of the weaknesses in the FC, in the Facilities Commission this year, and how do you plan to improve them next year?
I think this year's Facilities Commission has laid a great foundation for next year's Facilities Commission. Currently, the Facilities Commission this year has done work to make sure that we are benefiting zero waste by 2020 goals by converting students from reusable use products to single-use products. And next year, I will make sure that I am contributing to this goal as well by increasing student support behind the idea of increasing composting inside of ASU-CLA. And I also want to make sure that we are engaging with more students on this campus by using educational events and programs, because programs are extremely relevant to this campus, so that students are engaging with these issues that they may not have had the opportunity to do in the past.
You have 30 seconds.
I think the biggest issue is recognizing all student perspectives on this campus and being able to outreach to every single person. I like the idea of installing hydration stations, but installing hydration stations in areas where there's a high concentration of students, like by Powell Library and etc. As well as not charging students sums of money to encourage the saving of plastic waste and conservation of water. So, yes.
You have 30 seconds.
Next year, I also plan on increasing more hydration stations around campus. But in terms of having students pay for certain fees and sustainability costs a lot of money, which is why we have the Green Initiative Fund to help pay for these projects. We have to remember that this is an investment in our university. This is an investment in our environment, and that we need to be increasing education on issues of sustainability.
One of the biggest issues I see, and especially coming from my community, is relevance. I think it's hard sometimes for students to connect the dots, to see how facilities and me as a student who wants to put on programming, me as a resident of Los Angeles, how those two connect. Now, clearly, safety is a huge thing. Sustainability, we're in a drought. It's important that we are taking an active role in promoting sustainability, as we are grown people that will be moving out into the community. And it's important that we are taking the steps to educate.
Thank you, time.
Thank you.
This year's Facilities Commission has been very relevant and has created programs that are very relevant to our campus. Take, for example, the thrift shop that the Facilities Commission instituted this year. Not only did it teach students to be more sustainable, but it also provided new funding sources for student groups to take advantage of. Thank you.
You each have a minute for your closing statements. You can begin.
I have a vision for this office that differs markedly from my opponents. I want to utilize the Facilities Commission as a tool for students next year and make sure that they have the resources they need to be successful. USAC's goal should always be to provide agency to our student body to produce the work that benefits their own communities. By developing an innovation grant next year, we will give staff, students, and faculty the resources they need to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion on this campus. By centralizing student sustainability efforts, we can provide students information on resources they need to engage in sustainability. And by developing programs around environmental and social justice issues relevant to this commission, we can make sure we are increasing the visibility of this office so that all students understand its relevance. Experience combined with my passion and my continued commitment and service to our student body make me the most qualified candidate for this commission. My name is Carlos Quintanilla. I am your next Facilities Commissioner, and we are Bruins United.
Thank you. Alex, you have a minute as well. Please wait until all three candidates are done with their closing statements, y'all. Thank you. Go ahead.
The Facilities Commission is an office that is crucial to our existence as students. Without it, how can we ensure that our performance teams can fine-tune their skills and continue their legacy as elite performers? Or that our culture nights can put on the extraordinary shows that continue to educate thousands? The Facilities Commission is about more than access to space. It allows us to claim UCLA as our campus that we can use to address our ever-changing needs. And for such an important office, you need the right leader. Therefore, I stand before you, ready to take the helm. I'm the only candidate on this stage with the experience working both with cultural orgs and USAC. I've been fighting for student needs since I set foot on this campus, and it won't stop after elections, and it definitely won't stop after I graduate. Myself and all of my fellow LETSAC candidates are the most qualified, passionate, and dedicated individuals in this election cycle. We are more than titles. We represent the stories and experiences that every underrepresented student brings to UCLA. We're not just here to talk.
Thank you. Please wait until everybody's done. Thank you.
Having in-house experience is not necessary to hold a USAC position. My experiences as a grassroots community leader has shaped my passion and drive to fight for my UCLA community. Last quarter, I spoke at the USAC council meeting after $80,000 of student funds were stolen by our council members. That day, they almost eradicated 34 years of Vietnamese culture night and endangered all student programs that were reliant on that money. Experiences like these fuel my desire to provide to students and the accessibility and safety they deserve. Beyond addressing issues that current students face, I will create sustainable, enduring change, such as introducing feasible payment plans to reserve venues such as Royce Hall. Because like many students, I've experienced firsthand the fear of being unable to afford this campus. I want it to feel like a home, a safe place for every student, and by solving the root of the issue, not just grazing over its surface. Everything that I do will be done to ensure that students experience sustained safety and accessibility to all campus facilities. This is my promise to you. My name is Terry Nguyen, and I'm fired up for change, and I am your next facilities commissioner.
Time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Academic Affairs is next.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I just want to remind you that this is an opportunity for the candidates to take part in a debate, and the candidates may be cut off because of the participation from the audience. So please keep it down.
Did you guys hear what he just said? I don't know if you guys heard what he just said, but there is, not only does it prevent other people from hearing what candidates are saying when you guys cheer really loudly, but it also cuts into our time, and we'd really like to give every candidate position a fair amount of time. So the more you guys cheer, the less time the last position gets. So thank you. Okay. Each of you have a minute for your opening statement. We will begin left to right.
Your left?
Wait, your left or mine?
Me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jazz Keung, and I'm your fired-up candidate for Academic Affairs Commission. 3 years ago, I sat in my high school classroom alone, crying, because at that moment, I just got rejected from UCLA, my dream school. I was drawn to UCLA because of its ethnic studies programs, since my high school experience failed to address issues like inadequate educational resources. So why am I here? I appealed my rejection because I knew what UCLA's education could give me. I received admission by exception, an alternative story of access to the university. I was one of the few who had this chance, which is unfair because UCLA should be more accessible to the communities around Los Angeles. Thus, by running on platforms such as passing the diversity requirement and implementing an alternative admissions program, I want to redirect UCLA's attention to the communities beyond our bubble. Every student should have a transformative education experience. As your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I'm here to make this reality for all of us.
Time. Thank you. Please keep it down between opening statements. Thank you.
Hi, Bruins. My name is Allison Bach, and I'm running with Bruins United to be your next Academic Affairs Commissioner. I come from a home with a refugee background. My parents immigrated from Vietnam to the United States, sacrificing everything to pursue educational opportunities and to make a better life for my brother and I. But being first generation here in the United States, I know the obstacles that my family has faced. My struggles have shaped my success. My success lies within the Academic Affairs Commission. For the past 2 years, with the help of Bruins United Academic Affairs Commissioners, I've furthered the foundation of success in Kirchhoff 310, and today it is evident that the Academic Affairs Commission is one of the most consistently successful offices in USAC. But we are not finished. As your next Academic Affairs Commission, I aim to provide all Bruins with the confidence they deserve and need to be successful here at UCLA. I'm Allison Bach. I'm your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, and we are Bruins United.
Thank you. You have a minute.
Hey Bruins, my name is Janae Williams, and I'm your Let's Act candidate for Academic Affairs Commissioner. I am here at UCLA today because I've had the privilege to overcome the academic inequities meant to hold me back, coming from a low-income high school where students had to fight for desks, classes, and attention from three college counselors meant to serve over 2,500 students. Throughout my time as a Bruin, I have struggled with my academics, and as a Black South Campus student, I feel alone every day. When I walk into a lecture with 300 people and only see one person that looks like me, or no people that look like me. When I am consistently losing classmates because this university is not prioritizing retention efforts for students who come from under-resourced areas. And when my peers do not want to be my lab partner because they do not think I'm smart enough to be here. The Academic Affairs Commission has the unique opportunity to address these needs felt by students every day. It is my experience both inside and outside of USAC that make me the most qualified candidate to be your next Academic Affairs Commissioner. I am ready to act with you, Bruins.
Thank you. Thank you very much, candidates. Your first question is for you. Students often feel that professors are primarily focused on research rather than undergraduate education and student interaction. How would you work specifically to prioritize undergraduate education?
Thank you for that question. Professors are very critical in terms of our student education experience. So having them being able to be accessible to us as students is really critical. At the same time, however, it's our learning experience that really matters on this campus. So for example, with the passing the diversity requirement, it's about really reshaping the educational opportunities that we have and really allowing our undergraduate student body to have the experiences necessary to become diverse critical thinkers of the world around us. So with the diversity requirement, it's really about reshaping how we can have educational initiatives that can be geared towards service learning and really allowing for us to really achieve a better campus climate that has shown in recent years, especially this last year, of all the hate crimes that happened, that we really need this change. That's what Fired Up is all about. We're about making real policy change and really trying to shape our campus climate in a healthy way. I'm Jazz Keyoung. I'm Fired Up.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
I think it's important that my opponent here brought up the diversity requirement in tandem with the fact that we need to continue the relationships built with our professors. It's important that our professors understand the importance of the diversity requirement, and that's why I want to bring a student lobby corps to focus directly on the diversity requirement, making sure that our faculty understand the importance of why diversity is so unique to this campus and why it makes us better shaped to handle tackle the challenges that we face when we leave this university.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
Cool. So lobbying our professors to pass the diversity requirement is very critical. But at the same time, I think we need to reshape what we think about lobbying our professors, in which case it's not about just students going to our professors' office hours and talking to them. It's about creating opportunities for professors to talk with their other professors. So when I go into office in the Academic Affairs Commission, I will create a subcommittee for faculty to be able to talk to other faculty and utilize the allyship that we already have so that we can advocate on this on a multifaceted approach.
Time. Thank you.
As far as the diversity requirement is concerned, I am the candidate to pass the diversity requirement because of the work that I have done in the Academic Affairs Commission this year. The event that I held in the office called the Diversity Requirement Town Hall was one of the most highly attended events in the Academic Affairs Commission and called the hallmark of the commission by the Daily Bruin this year. So therefore, I am the candidate who can pass it. With my diversity requirement task force, I will bring together students, staff, faculty, and administrators to make sure that we are passing this requirement, and I am the candidate to do that. Let's act.
Time. Thank you. 30-second response.
I think we really need to remember that the diversity requirement has been a community-based initiative that was for student organizations working on this outside of the Academic Affairs Commission. Specifically this year, it was the student organizations outside of the office who really mobilized outside with the hate crimes that has happened. It was those students who worked on this issue for years when it was an unpopular issue, when it was not allowed to be talked about in the Academic Affairs Commission. Is holding a town hall event 2 weeks before elections really that helpful? I question that.
Thank you. So our next question was on the diversity requirement, but I think that was pretty much answered.
We can always talk more about the diversity requirement.
Well, we have more questions. Don't worry, we have more questions though. What academic services do you think UCLA currently fails to provide completely or efficiently? What service would you implement or mend, and how?
There are 3 things that the Academic Affairs Commission is responsible for doing. That's focusing on first years and transfer students, next connecting Bruins to graduate students, and third really focusing on career development. What this campus needs is to make sure that our Bruins leave here successfully, and that is why my platform is to network Bruins with pre-professional organizations on campus. I want to make sure that every Bruin who comes to this campus is prepared to pursue any professional field that they want, and it's by connecting them with the organizations that already provide the resources and connect them with alumni that make them stronger. And that is why I'm behind my platform for really connecting Bruins and really fulfilling the duties that the Academic Affairs Commission is responsible for doing.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
One of my platforms is to create a holistic guide to navigating South Campus. And as a South Campus student, I understand what it's like to not have my academic needs met by this university. And so what I want to do is create this guide, which would have research opportunities, job opportunities, and many other different libraries and academic needs that aren't being addressed by UCLA out in the public in this guide. And students can download it. And I think this is really important because there are many South Campus students who feel alone on this campus, particularly South Campus students of color. And so I really believe that this is something that is a great academic
time. Thank you.
I'd like to thank my opponent for pointing out the importance of a resource guide. That's why it's so important to know that the Academic Affairs Commission this year already put out an academic resource guide. We have a peer learning resource map that connects both South Campus and North Campus students to the resources available to them. And as your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I want to expand that policy advocacy for North Campus and South Campus students. This year, as sitting on the faculty executive committee, I've already been able to work for taking out an organic chem lab for South Campus students. You don't need that if you're not going to med school. And that's what I'm focusing on doing this year, and we'll continue to advocate for South
time. Thank you. Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Having guides is great, but it's not just about putting out guides. We have to really be advocating for the expansion of our services so that they're sustainable, so that they're accessible for all of students. For example, in one of my platforms, which is to create ethnic resource centers, it's about utilizing what we already have on this campus that's available to all students. Looking into the Bruin Resource Center, the Community Programs Office, our Ethnic Studies Research Centers, and seeing how the alignments of their visions towards serving all students can really align with how we expand these services so that it's not just about highlighting them, it's about expanding them. Thank you.
Time. Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
As the Executive Director of Academic Appointments for the Academic Affairs Commission this year, I have the most intimate relationship understanding all the policy needs that need to be addressed for this campus. And yes, pointing out what my opponent said about the Ethnic Resource Center is important, but also focusing other policies that all students are really concerned about. And that's why the appointments in the Academic Affairs Commission is so important. And making sure that they sit on these committees like Research Committee, like Teaching Committee. They are advocates for you, and that's why I want to empower those students, because honestly, my appointments are my love and my heart, and they are great.
Time. Thank you. Thank you. Your third question is on the flip side of that question. What services do you think the AAC provides well already, and what initiatives do you plan to continue?
I think that one of the good things about the Academic Affairs Commission this year, and I am in the Academic Affairs Commission this year and the Academic Climate Committee, is their work that they've done with the appointments to increase appointment transparency. And I believe that the Academic Affairs Commission set up a really good foundation for their appointment and their transparency. But as your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I want to take it a step further and prove that academic appointments are really important. With my platform, AAC Advocacy, I will not only increase the transparency of the appointments, and work on what they already have. I will also make sure that appointments are lobbying on the same issues, because the only way that we're going to get anything done is if we are all kind of on the same page and working towards the exact same issues. Now, the problem with the Academic Affairs Commission this year and the appointments was that they set up a foundation, but there wasn't any follow-through. There wasn't enough follow-through to make sure that people are going to actually be held accountable, and that's one thing I will do as your next Academic Affairs Commissioner. Build off the foundation already and hold people accountable even more. I am the candidate who can follow through. Let's
Time. Thank you.
Transparency is great, especially for all the appointments that we have in the Academic Affairs Commission office. But I don't think it's really necessary to have a platform about transparency, because that's in our duties as Academic Affairs Commissioners. At the same time, I think it's very important that we're not focusing on just putting on one-time workshops or one day a week kind of events just to really try to show off some of the services that we can provide. With my vision of the Academic Affairs Commission office, it's really about working on real policy changes that can be lasting and impactful for all of us.
Time. Thank you. You have a 30-second response.
Every last one of my platforms is about institutionalizing something. I want to institutionalize a diversity requirement, make sure that's something that happens. I want to institutionalize this holistic guide to South Campus. I want to institutionalize these paid research fellowships that I have. Nothing is just a one-day event or a one-time deal. Everything I'm going to do is going to create lasting and sustainable change on this campus. And as your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I am committed to that. So I'm saying vote Janae for your next Academic Affairs Commissioner. Let's act.
Time. Thank you.
As the current executive director of academic appointments, I've not only built the foundation for transparency and accountability, but I'm going to continue that as your next academic affairs commissioner. And to talk about what's the most important thing to continue about the Academic Affairs Commission, it's about access programs. And that is why I'm so behind the Global Leadership Connection, where we bring hundreds of students to the UCLA campus and really teach them how to apply to colleges and really to prepare them for success. Let's focus on access and not just talk about transparency and accountability, because I've already done that.
Time. Thank you. Please do not scream during candidates' answers. It's really important so other people can hear them. Thank you.
So transparency is very important in the Academic Affairs Commission. And like I said, I want to thank Allison for setting up that foundation. But at the end of the day, when I went online to read the blog post from the Academic Affairs appointments, you know, many of them were just talking about the committees themselves and not talking about what the students were doing on the committees. What are the issues? The students on these appointments, students in these committees do not know the issues that they are supposed to be fighting for. If you're looking at the undergraduate council, the diversity requirement is on that agenda every week. And if a student doesn't know what they're talking about, then how can they advocate effectively?
Time. Thank you. So the fourth question is for you. CEC candidate Greg recently mentioned concern in incorporating transfer students into his commission's programs, and we will also be voting on a transfer council position this year. The bylaws state that the role of the CAC is to, quote, support transfer students in their academic adjustment to UCLA. How will you help transfer students settle into the academic environment of UCLA, and how would you promote visibility of your services among this population?
Thank you. I just want to start off by saying that transfer students are a critical component in terms of the advocacy of the Academic Affairs Commission. And like you said, it is in our bylaws, it is in our responsibilities. At the same time, this is an approach that can always be multifaceted. This can be an approach that can always be increased. So for example, I want to give a shout out to my running mate, Durr, who's running for general representative. And one of her platforms is to really increase advocacy and programming events to allow for transfer students to adjust onto this campus. And at the same time, it's about also creating policies and changing policies that allow for transfer students to be more successful on this campus. One of my platforms is to eliminate ECP, expected cumulative progress, which has a disparate effect sometimes on transfer students because they aren't able to access their degree audit report, and their unit counts are much different than the traditional student that comes in as a freshman. So it's really about making these policy changes and then also working with the running mate that I have, like Durr. Thank you.
Time. Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Transfer students play a critical role on this campus, and that's why I can't wait to work with a new transfer representative who is elected. Because honestly, it's the AAC's job to focus on helping transfer students adjust to their academic experience here. But more than that, talking on the expected cumulative progress, we don't need to eliminate it, we need to reform it. We need to make sure that students are held accountable to graduate on time, but the way we do that is working with the ECP task force that's already in place. And I've been working with the committee on CRC to really focus on how to reform ECP and make sure that this is something that is helpful to students and not hurtful.
Thank you. Please do not shout. Thank you.
I really thank you, Allison, for bringing up the Campus Retention Committee, because I actually sit on that task force to address expected cumulative progress. And we're actually currently working on meeting with Patricia Turner, the Vice Provost of Undergraduate Education, to see how, to really see which students are being disproportionately affected by ECP policies, because we should always be on a direction and a vision for 100% retention. And that's the job of the Academic Affairs Commission, to always be pushing for policies to retain all of our students on this campus.
I am so honored to be running with Let's Act because we are the only slate with an actual transfer student running with us. And Nagin Sadeghi-Movahead, running for internal vice president, one of her platforms is to institutionalize a seminar for transfer success, which would be a one-unit upper division course. Working with me and the Academic Affairs Commission, that is something that can happen within this next year. We are dedicated to transfers. We are dedicated to making sure that every student has access to these resources and students have access to this university. That's why we are Let's Act.
Time. Thank you. Rebuttal. Go ahead, rebuttal.
Thank you. Just to speak briefly about Fired Up as a slate. Fired Up as a slate has always been about the issues that the communities of the UCLA care about. And so in running the people that we have on our slate, it really has been about understanding the issues that came from the communities that we come from. And really always being there and always showing that, you know, these are the issues that the people from the communities have brought to our attention, and we have been here, and we're here to advocate on behalf of that. And it's not about just putting someone on the slate just to tokenize someone because of their identity.
Time. Thank you. This next question is for you. And please keep in mind that yelling during candidate speaking is not just rude, it's also like an accessibility issue. We want everybody to hear things. Thank you. One of the duties of the Academic Affairs Commissioner is to, quote, appoint all student representatives to the Academic Senate committees. How will you make the appointments process more transparent? What criteria will you set forward for your appointments on the Academic Senate committees? And would your fellow candidates be qualified to serve on such a committee?
Thank you for that question. As the Executive Director of Academic Appointments, I know better than anyone else about the appointments process. And honestly, I think that my opponents would make great appointments too, because they were really advocating for the diversity requirement. But more than that, this year I've made sure that my appointments are accountable. And about the transparency of their appointment system, this year for the first time, all of appointments had to go through ARC, and they had to be approved by council so that no bias can be questioned in my appointment system. This year, I have continued transparency and accountability of my appointments by making sure that they meet monthly and making sure that they are advocating for the same policies and programs that would benefit all students. This And as your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I will not only continue the foundation that I've had for the academic appointments process, but I will continue the success of how our appointments are advocating for what students want and what students deserve. Thank you.
My AAC advocacy platform is pretty much taking these appointments, making them more transparent first off, just by utilizing the foundation that's already been set in the Academic Affairs Commission, but also building off of it and having appointments be more connected to the UCLA community through utilizing student media and other resource outlets. I think that we all are very able to be appointment directors, but I think that I'm the most qualified for that.
Time. Thank you.
Qualifications are important for an appointment, but also passion for this committee that you sit on is extremely important. You need to understand that there are different committees. There are 32 appointments sitting on over 20 committees, and through my work this year, I've made sure that there's interest for every appointment committee that I have by making sure that the last appointment meeting that I had appointments bring 5 friends that they wanted to come and really learn about the different process of each committee, and that's how you can get qualified and passionate appointments, because it's not just about qualifications. It's about being
time. Thank you.
I want to talk about sort of qualifications needed to be in USAC. And I think a lot of times we talk about, you have to be in-house or something like that. And in my experience working as the external assistant director of the Asian Pacific Coalition, we've worked a lot with different communities who've worked on academic-related issues and students who have shown the capabilities that they have in terms of working outside of the office, working outside the institutionalized process. And it's really reaching out to these students who have been left out of the process of appointments and advocacy. That's my connections, and that's what I'm...
Time. Thank you.
I'm proud of the diverse selection of appointments that I have sitting under me as the Executive Director of Academic Appointments. It is through the unbiased system of having them go through council review before they're appointed to make sure that they're not just qualified, but also passionate for the communities that they represent. I'm so behind continuing the gaps and continuing bridging the gaps that our communities and USAC has. And I want to make sure that all appointments are not only advocating for their communities, but advocating for all students at UCLA.
Thank you. The last question for y'all is for you. The increased shift towards an online education has been a hot topic of conversation within the UC and other higher education institutions. Where do you see online education fitting into students' education here at UCLA?
Online education is very important just because it's something that the UC is pretty much trying to move towards. In the Academic Affairs Commission this past year, they worked a lot with online education, but I think that there is more that can be done. I think that we should not just be taking surveys of how students feel about online education, but actually going out and asking students how they feel about it and making sure that we are being well represented, making sure that students are being well represented with online education. I think that online education is important because it's kind of the stepping into the 21st century, but we should also be very cognizant of the many things that we have on campus right now. And so we have many resources on campus right now. And with my South Campus holistic guide to navigating South Campus, those are resources that we can be utilizing currently. Those are resources that students do not necessarily know about and that we can help bridge the gap between North Campus and South Campus and make sure that South Campus students are their academic needs are well taken care of.
Time. Thank you.
I think there's a lot of potential when it comes to online education. And being on a student advisory board for Pat Turner, who's the Vice Provost of Undergraduate Education, I've been on her student advisory board for 2 years, and we've talked about the potential for online education. And I think specifically with working with the diversity requirement, there can be ways that we can tailor how we can get diversity-related classes or sort of resources online so that students who don't necessarily have the capacity to take classes on campus can really access them.
Time. Thank you.
The diversity requirement is also something that's really near and dear to my heart, just as I've been working on it since my first year on campus. And when communities in conflict in the modern world failed, it was really something that hurt because I was a student who advocated for the requirement by talking to my professors and the faculty members I knew. And so the diversity requirement task force that I have, another one of my platforms, we created a task force comprised of faculty, staff, students, and administration to help facilitate the passage of a diversity requirement, which is something that we don't have right now, but is currently being written. And so this is a very important platform.
Time. Thank you. 30 seconds.
Going back to the question about online education, I'm so proud of the work that the Academic Affairs Commission has done this year, creating a comprehensive survey that was made because Jan Reif, the Academic Senate Chair, asked us to do it. And it's about focusing on online education. We need to focus on working with faculty and students to understand how we can improve online education. But it's more than that. We want to make sure that these online education courses, one which I have taken, really cater to how a faculty member teaches it, but also how students can really learn from the education that's provided.
Time. Thank you.
I agree that we should be working with faculty, but another one of my platforms is to create paid research fellowships for students who technically would not be able to have a lot of research opportunities. And these research fellowships would be with the UCLA libraries, and they'd be an opportunity for students to go into these libraries and get paid to do research and work on their own projects, while at the same time teaching other students how to do research. And this is a very important platform because it would ultimately be promoting retention by promoting student jobs. And that's what Let's Act is all about.
Time. Thank you. Y'all each have 60 seconds for your closing statements.
As UCLA students, we have the privilege of receiving one of the best educations available in this country. And as Bruins, you deserve an academic affairs commissioner that can be an advocate for your academic needs. I am that person. I have already been doing that in the AAC office this year. The event my component held this year, the widely attended diversity requirement town hall, was called the hallmark of the office by the Daily Bruin. The commitment I have put into this office for the past 2 years is undeniable, and I will only do more as your next AAC. Unlike my opponents, I have worked in both USAC and student organizations. I have worked in 3 different USAC offices and have been involved in organizing with the African Student Union, Mecha de UCLA, Samahang Filipino, the Queer Alliance, and more. I am a community-minded individual with relevant USAC experience to back everything up. I have always been taking action, and as your next AAC, that will never stop. I am Janae Williams. I'm your next Academic Affairs Commissioner. Let's act.
Please wait until everybody's done with their closing statements. Thank y'all.
Leaders think and talk about solutions. Followers think and talk about the problems. Bruins, I'm not here to dwell on the problems. I'm here to provide tangible and long-lasting solutions. I'm the leader that you need to run Academic Affairs Commission, and I have the in-house experience. But to me, being in-house is more than a title. To me, being in-house means attending every staff meeting and actively participating in the planning and execution of each office event and initiative. Being in-house means encouraging your fellow staff members to reach their leadership potential and creating those long-lasting AA connections. Being in-house means beaming with happiness when you know that someone's personally been aided with their academic experience because of your help. And I'm proud to say that I've consistently done that for the past 2 years. This is why it truly means to be a part of the most successful office in USAC. I'm the most qualified candidate for academic affairs that this university has ever seen. Now I'm prepared to do even more. My name is Allison Bach. I'm your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, and we are Bruins United.
Please hold your applause. You have 60 seconds.
Going into my 3rd year, I'm committed to serving you as an individual grounded in community issues. Your student government should always serve you. Your university should always retain 100% of its students. Your education experience should always transform you for the world. A strong community needs people that are skilled, responsible, and thoughtful in order to create an environment that helps us move forward together. I'm not a politician, nor am I trying to be one. I'm a student who understands and cares about making our UCLA experience beautiful. My opponents claim to be more qualified than me. However, they've lost touch with these issues. As your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I'm not afraid to challenge what the office can do. There's so much potential to make institutional change. I'm trailblazing, resource sharing, community caring, and my passion is flaring.
Please hold your
I'm Jazz
applause.
Kyung, your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, and I'm fired up.
Time, thank you. General Representatives, you are next. Please take your seat immediately. Thank you. Perfect, thank you. Gen Reps, just so we do get out on time, please be quiet. We have to keep going. Thank you. Just to make sure that we get out on time, and clearly it's not quite time efficient to have everybody respond to every single rebuttal and everything. So what we will have is we will have the first person answer the question, and we will have one rebuttal and a 30-second rebuttal and a 30-second response to that rebuttal. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Can you do that one more time?
Wait.
How long is the time for like the entire allocation for Gen Reps? Is it 60 minutes?
Can they just like?
Okay.
So,
Further questions?
so for example, it's going to be me for a minute.
30 seconds, 30 seconds. Perfect. Then next question. Yes, I will point. Don't worry. I got you. First question is for you then.
Can I get my
Oh, opening statements. I'm sorry. 60 seconds each. And please hold your applause in between them. Thank you.
Diversity requirements, student group funding, increasing transparency, institutionalization, administrative relations, campus climate, safety, sexual assault prevention, mental health advocacy, access, and retention. The issues are large, but the time is short. My term as Gen Rep will only last 1 year. As the most qualified candidate here, my year will be used towards working on my platforms and addressing these issues instead of overcoming the steep learning curve of USAC bureaucracy. If UCLA has fostered anything in me, it is a passion to learn. I want to share this love with everyone around me. The Brew Inspired Conference, the Bruin Research Expo, and the LabCoat Learner Library will do exactly that. As a future council member, I must keep learning. My Special Projects Committee will have office members directly go to club meetings to learn about their needs and learn about how to better the UCLA community, connecting your aspirations with my office. My name is Nihal Satyadev. I always have and always will keep learning, and we are Bruins United.
Time. Thank you. Please hold your applause. Next.
Hi, Bruins. I am Francesca Rebecera, and I'm your LETSAC candidate for General Representative. Growing up soft-spoken and quiet, I thought it was acceptable to let others speak for me. I allowed others to speak for me because I was told that my voice as an introverted Filipino woman was not valuable. I was under the impression that I did not have power in society. Now, as a student leader and as cultural coordinator on Samahang Filipino Board, I've become empowered to realize that my voice matters and that I can create change. I am no longer the quiet little girl who allowed others to speak for her. My voice is my strength, and it is how I make sure that my experiences as a leader, as a woman, and as a member of an invisible minority are not invalidated on this campus. I will work with you to ensure that all communities and people at this university have the opportunity to use their voice to advocate for their needs. I want UCLA to feel like a Bruin community, a Bruin family, where students understand how to exercise their student power. My name is Francesca Rebecera.
Thank you.
Nyojong. Hello, everyone. My name is Dur Zhang, and I'm running for General Representative. As a 1.5 generation Hmong American, I've faced several adversities in my life. I understand the struggles of those who come from underrepresented and underserved communities. I am one of 30 Hmong Americans here on this campus. Being rooted in the community for the past 2 years, I've worked on issues to provide access to resources, upholding the true Bruin values, I understand that our UCLA experiences is based on the quality of our work and service to others. I strive to make UCLA a more inclusive campus and to make resources accessible so that all students can make the most of the Bruin experience. My name is Der Zhang. I am fired up to be your next general representative.
Next, thank you.
Communication, understanding, and respect are absolutely vital to creating positive change on campus. I think we can all agree across party lines that these three components have been lacking within USAC, and it's time for change. This past year, I've worked in both IVP and GenRep 1, and I've seen what it takes to ensure an office is run successfully and that initiatives are carried out, something only possible with in-house experience. But I've also been working from within communities, helping build a more understanding UCLA through projects like World Insight that directly promote and showcase the diversity we have. The international community alone is comprised of over 80 different nationalities, countless religions and ethnicities, yet this community is still one without a voice in USAC. As someone who has felt underrepresented on council table, I am ready to stand up and be the voice that USAC needs. I am Fab Roth, I am your next general representative, and we are Bruins United.
Thank you, Sasha.
All right, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. First off, I think as most of you know, I'm Sachin Medhaker, the Bruins Satirist candidate for Gen Rep 1. I want to start off, I think, like we did the endorsement hearings, to address some kind of problems with my campaign, you know, to put it all out there in the open. And the biggest one is that I haven't been very active on social media. I haven't even changed my profile picture yet, and I apologize. I will get right on that. And I realize, though, like, I don't really care about, like, most of the other students because I figure this is who's going to be voting anyway. But I realize, thank you. This is eating out of my time, guys. Okay, so just cut me off, by the way. Just shut it off when it happens. But I have made a Twitter account just for all of you. It's Bruin Satirists or @Bruin Satirists. Feel free to live tweet me right now. Oh, I'm running out of time. I'll talk about it later. All right, love you.
Thank you. Please keep it down. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Patterson, and I'm proud to be running with Bruins United to be your next general representative. My identity is composed of various facets, from being a male, a person of color, an immigrant, and an out-of-state student. Like many students on this campus, there's more to me than meets the eye. The idea is that is the idea that I want to share with everyone as your next general representative. At a school of 28,000 undergraduates, each Bruin has a unique story and journey. My platforms seek to make USAC relevant to all students and make USAC a place for collaboration and mutual understanding. These platforms include Poly Concession Nights, which will provide another source of funding for student groups, Bruin Story Swap, which will be events for cross-community interactions, and UCL Rave, a winter quarter kickoff concert. I love UCLA and I love being a Bruin. And to me, education comes more than just inside the classroom, but our interactions with one another. I'm Kevin Patterson. I'm your next general.
Time. Thank you.
My first year at UCLA started with nothing less than excitement and unwavering anticipation, kind of like when you're at IKEA. I've always been passionate about my roots, and I knew UCLA would be the perfect place to celebrate my diverse culture, ideas, and upbringing. Surprisingly, from the time that I walked on Bruin Walk, I had a feeling that I wasn't welcome. Was it the fact that I was a good-looking 6'7" individual, or was it the fact that I wore a turban? I felt like my voice was not being heard on this campus. However, I did build relations with and became aware of others who felt just as I did. Together, we acted upon our passions to unify the student body. The student voice has been segregated, silenced for far too long. We are a community of activists, of intellectuals, and leaders. I have and will continue to represent our student voice through the active engagement in organizations all year, not just during the election period. I have the responsibility and privilege to be sitting up here today. I will work tirelessly to embody the students who have been misrepresented time and time again. My name is Manjot Singh. I am your next general representative. Let's act.
Time. Thank you. Next.
Thank you. This one's
Hello? Oh. Okay. It's on, okay. Being raised in a small town in the Central Valley as a low-income queer Chicano, I know what it feels like to not be heard or represented. I know what it is like to have people ridicule you for your mannerisms, dress, and existence. As a queer student, I have been made to feel ashamed of who I am, and as a brown student, I have been taught to be ashamed of my skin color. The intersectionality of my identities are a cohesive combination of who I am. I have been placed on the margins by institutions that were not created for me. I feel some type of way when I hear people being complacent about issues that are affecting students on and off this campus. Being apathetic, we are valuing the existence of oppressive societal systems and disenfranchising anyone different. Next year, I will be your ally and your advocate for issues you know our student government should be addressing. This might sound idealistic and hopeful, but why does it have to be? We can work together to create this change. So vote for me, Erinel Garcia, as your next Let's Act General Representative.
Thank you. Okay, so the first question will be for you, and then you will have 30 seconds to answer it, and you have 30 seconds to respond. What do you envision your role as Gen Rep to be, and how do you plan to accomplish your platforms with such a limited budget and staff?
My role as general representative is in two parts. It is in one, to accomplish my platforms, and in two is to be an effective council member representing 29,500 students on this campus. These two tasks are not an easy task, but in terms of accomplishing platforms, I have already met with relevant administration to ensure that my platforms are not only tangible, but will be institutionalized next year, and within this year as well. But as a council member, I need to keep learning, and I have done that this year. To working with community, and by being on the steering committee for the Students of Color Conference, I have seen that there is so much power in unity and so much power in bringing together 1,300 students from across the UCs to understand the issues that are faced by students of color.
So I believe that my role as general representative is to really advocate for the student voice on this campus. And one of the ways that I want to do that is through my Bruin Talks program, which is a program inspired by TED Talks but made for and by Bruins. And at its basis, it's a space for cultural exchange and community building. And in terms of making sure that that is feasible and sustainable, I will create the proper partnerships with outside organizations as well as on-campus organizations to utilize resources that we already have. I've already contacted the intergroup relations of Bruin Resource Center to work and partner with them on this.
Thank you.
As a bioengineering major, I have seen the lack of outreach and commitment that USAC has had to the South Campus community, which is why next year I want to outreach to them through institutionalized initiatives and not just programming. Through the Lab Coat Loaner Library, I will work on continuing something that I've already created this year, the Bruin Soup Bank, which helps to under-resourced students to have access to formal wear. I want to allow South Campus students access to lab coats instead of having them pay $100+ for a lab coat and safety goggles.
Thank you. So you have the next question, and then you will have 30 seconds as well. What is one of the biggest issues facing students today, and how will your office take specific steps to address it?
I think that one of the biggest issues that face our campus today is the negative campus climate that we're experiencing this year. We've seen it the past year with hate crimes and all the different negative attitudes and energies towards specific groups of people. And I think that one group of people specifically is women. We saw it with the hate crimes with the API flyer, and especially for me as an API woman, that really angered me because this is my community. And so one of the things that I really want to push for is a women's conference. And it's a way to empower LA youth, the students on this campus, and the community around the issues of women. And how do we address that in terms of higher education, women in STEM majors, women in professional fields where
that are more male dominated. I want to make sure that women's issues are addressed because this is a problem not only for our for women, but also allies in all communities. And that's why I'm running with Let's Act, because we're all about making sure that we create a positive campus climate.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I do agree with what my opponent has said. I think for me, a big issue is the lack of access and support from the UCLA community. And I'm speaking on behalf of the student parent population here. A lot of them, they pay a lot of money to come to this university, and they have to pay for the course materials fees. That's a lot of money. So something that I'm trying to implement for is a free child daycare services for them, so that they can be both students and they can graduate on time.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. I really agree with you on the fact that student parents are not having their needs be addressed on this campus. And one of the ways that I really want to address that is making sure that they have their voices heard. I've talked to Tiffany and Paolo Velasco at Bruin Resource Center, and they've talked about the struggles of non-traditional students. So I want to create a platform through my Bruin Talks program where they can talk about their stories, they can get their issues heard, and they can make people on this campus understand the struggles that they're going through so we can deal with them as a community.
Thank you. The third question is, who do you believe is the most qualified candidate for general representative after yourself, and why? Please list a specific platform over theirs that you admire.
That's a hard question. All right, hello everyone. Aside from myself, I think the most qualified candidate would be Francesca from my opposing side, because I really like her platform about women, the women's conference. However, I think that that's really exclusive to only women. I think that we should aim to create a more inclusive environment, not here at UCLA. So something that I'm trying to implement is to extend the transfer orientation day. Freshmen, they get 3 days, whereas transfers, they only get 1 day. 1 day is not enough for students to really get a feel of the university. And so that's something I'm working towards. I've already talked to Paulo as well from the Bruin Research Center, and I've also talked to Maria Blandisi from Student Services and Initiatives.
I would say that my fellow running mates, Nihal Satyadev and Kevin Patterson, are the most qualified after myself. I admire their passion in both the optimism that they bring to the table and their focus on education. And I think that's something that's really important and needs to be addressed in USAC to make sure that we are more cohesive. That being said, I do believe that I am the most qualified. Not only do I have experience working in 2 USAC offices, I've also worked from my own community and made sure that I've created cross-cultural connections through that.
So aside from what has already been said, I'll go in to talk about one of my platforms, which is dental inclusion and UC-ship. And so many times students who do have UC-ship, they don't understand the services and benefits they get from that. And I've already talked to Barbara, who is the insurance manager at ASH, and she's really excited to work with me so that we can make UC-ship more transparent. And that's why I think my platform is the most feasible for all of us. And yeah, I'm fired up.
Thank you. What concrete steps Bless you. What concrete steps will you take to ensure that student organizations are obtaining adequate programming resources?
Adequate program resources is something that's very important because it's what enables student groups to empower themselves and to be able to educate their fellow Bruins on the issues that really impact them and that they hold true to their heart. And that is one of the reasons I'm currently supporting my fellow running mate, Carlos Quintanilla, and his creation of the ARC referendum, which is creating a bigger pool of funding for arts-based communities and cultural programming to ensure that students are able to do that. Having actually helped co-program with the Chinese Students and Scholars Association this year on that culture night, I see the impact these can have and the education that this can bring to students.
Okay, so I'll try to be like mean to her because that's kind of what we're supposed to do, right? Like after, okay. So I think she misinterpreted the question. She mentioned concrete steps. And as all of you know, a scooter lane is what I'm going to be implementing. Concrete all around campus. Technically not steps. I imagine maybe like steps to grind on or something, but not really. But, oh, sorry. Oh, wait, what was that? Oh, 10, okay. That's about it. I don't.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Good luck in institutionalizing that. I wish you the best. I would like to say that this year, I've actually been directly working with the International Student Association, putting on a program called World Insight, and I've seen firsthand how important funding is to ensuring a program is successful. We have over 26 different student groups participating, trying to showcase their culture at the Greater USAC campus. And so, as I said, I will keep pushing for the ARC referendum to be passed. Thank you.
No, there's no just the question. Oh. So now you have a question.
Okay. I'm ready.
Why are you the most qualified candidate to represent the council? To represent to the council all council-sponsored organizations and their interests. How will you ensure that students are being adequately represented?
Okay, so. Don't remember the whole question, but that's okay. I think I spoke to, like I had an interview with the Daily Bruin and they had a very similar question, like how will I make sure that a lot of student groups are represented? And I think that, obviously, you know, I made the Twitter already, so that's like a big first step. But I think, and I think I mentioned in the last one that I'd have a student office hour every year, so that'll be, we'll have that. What was the first part of the question? Does this count for my time? No.
So why, you kind of mentioned it, but why are you the most qualified candidate to represent to the council all council-sponsored organizations and their interests?
Okay, so I think it's really when I present to council. So I think that's a really easy one. I think that I'm one of the best-looking candidates, and like, I think that a lot of what is said is really ignored just what they look like, and I think that I can really like persuade a lot of people to do things for me.
Thank you very much. You have 30 seconds.
My opponent mentioned being good looking. I believe I'm also very good looking. And as working in the General Representative 2 office this year, I plan on working on reaching out to students because it's one thing to sit in your office, General Representative office on the 5th floor. No one's gonna walk up to the 5th floor of Kirchhoff. It's important to go out to these communities and really focus on what they need from USAC and how I can better address their issues on the council table.
You have 30 seconds.
First off, there's an elevator, so it's not that bad. It's like 5, like you have to wait a little bit. There's no elevator. I'll add an elevator, ADA, what, like, anyway, so I'll add an elevator first off. I didn't know that was, I'm outraged that that's not true already. I've never gone up there. And then, I think what was the next part? Oh, I also, a lot of people are like, why am I not reaching out to them? I don't want to bother anyone, you know? Like, they're at their meeting, maybe they don't want to see me there.
Please keep it
down. So, office hour.
Thank you very much. Please keep it down. Thank you. The next question is for you. You have a minute. The general representative offices are known to be programmatic, but are there any institutional changes you are planning to focus on next year as well? If so, how will you be able to implement such changes?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't get one of those words.
The Gen Rep offices are known to be programmatic, but are there any institutional changes you are planning to focus on next year as well? If so, how will you be able to implement them?
That is one of the weaknesses of the General Representative Office is sometimes it's very focused on programming. But having worked in the General Representative 2 office this year as the director of Bruin Confidential, I've had experience institutionalizing platforms as we've created Bruin Confidential as its own separate student group. And I plan on continuing that next year with institutionalizing platforms by working closely with student groups especially with poly concession nights, so they know exactly how this program is going to be run and what administrators to talk to, so that when my term in the general representative office is over, they'll be able to continue this platform long beyond my tenure.
Thank you.
Oh God. Okay. Hello. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Oh God. Okay. Can I move this? So yeah, definitely one of the weaknesses.
Please keep it down. Thank you.
Are we good? Okay. So definitely one of the weaknesses of the current general representative offices is not doing enough institutional changes. That's why I have Bruins Day off. That's why I've spoken to Savannah from the Student Wellness Commission. That's why I've spoken to Mike DeLuca. So I know exactly what it takes in order to institutionalize things. Bruins Day off is a program that I want to have in Sunset Rec where students from all different groups, meditation, yoga, different artists can come together and really experience some kind of like a day off, really, for students to really relax and understand that we're all students first and we're all come from different backgrounds and we just need to be Bruins.
Time. Thank you.
That's why I'm proud to be running with Bruins United, because we have a long legacy of institutionalizing platforms, including Bruin Day Out and Ally Week, which was institutionalized in the IVP office. And I want to continue to work with the initiatives that the General Rep offices have done this year, no matter what the slate, because I was very impressed with the General Representative 3 office and their People of Color tour, and I plan on working on institutionalizing that in campus tours. So no matter what the slate, it's important to make long-lasting change on this campus.
Thank you. Okay, so your question is, it's easy to engage with and represent groups that you affiliate with. However, how can you personally engage with communities you do not identify with? In your answer, please mention an issue affecting a specific underrepresented group, represented community at UCLA that you plan to address next year.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry, that was my fault. So it's easy to engage with and represent groups that you affiliate with. However, how can you personally engage with communities you do not identify with? In your answer, please mention an issue affecting a specific underrepresented community at UCLA that you plan to address next year.
Thank you for that question. Definitely, I think because I'm a SIG student member on this campus, I'm a SIG student, and I know what it's like to not have my voice heard on this campus, and so that's why all my platforms specifically address that. Number one, through the hub, I plan to create a space on the Hill for all communities to engage and come together in cultural exchange and really realize that there's so many communities who don't feel like they're represented on this campus. And so I will institutionalize that. I will make sure that this space is always there on the Hill, specifically in the the Tom Bradley International Hall. I've already spoken to the executive director of ORL, and so I really know what it takes to kind of create this space and make it long-lasting. And definitely, I know as a SIG student, my community resonates with a lot of other communities on this campus. We all know what it feels like to not be heard, and definitely I will plan to address that next year as your next general representative.
With my fellow mate, me and Majal, we both partook in planning the Student of Color Conference, so we both know what it means to represent students from different backgrounds and diverse backgrounds. Through one of my platforms, revamping our student group website, I would like to advocate for all student groups, whether they be political, cultural, or social, to make sure that all students incoming as first years and transfer students get involved here at UCLA. And I really think it's important to find that niche here at UCLA so that students could be proactive in their own retention and socializing with other people so that they could have a support system here. Thank you.
30 seconds.
Thank you, Ariel. So definitely I realize what it takes to kind of provide a platform for students to be able to discuss issues that aren't discussed in the classroom, and that's why I've created Coffees and Conversation. I love coffee, I love conversing, I love talking, and so definitely this is a space for students to talk about issues like such as LGBTQ issues that don't often get talked about in the public space, right? And so I want to engage professors, student groups, and students together so we can actually talk about issues that really resonate with students but don't get talked about regularly. Thank you.
The last question for y'all. What do you think some of the biggest challenges of general representative offices, excuse me, that was wrong. What do you think have been some of the biggest challenges of general representative offices in past years, and what would you do to address them?
One of the biggest issues I think that happens in the Gen Rep office is that none of the programs that are done in that offices are not institutionalized and are not done consecutively every year. Through one of my platforms, the Career Conference, I would like to advocate for career students on campus and allies as well in the greater Los Angeles community to make sure that they are working every year to support career students on campus and working on community conditions. Through another one of my platforms, I would also like to institutionalize the text and go ordering system where students could text in the order to any of the coffee shops here on campus through ASUCLA so that they could just text in the orders and also just pick up their order whenever they are ready to pick them up.
You have 30 seconds.
I'd like to resonate with what my opponent Ireneo said, that institutionalization is one of the biggest issues of the Gen Rep office, which is why in the Gen Rep 1 office, I've already worked to institutionalize the Bruin Soup Bank. And next year, I will be continuing to do just that. I'll be working with administration as well as students to institutionalize all 3 of my platforms so that they last much longer than my 1-year term and work towards influencing the UCLA community throughout their existence.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
Through my technical platform, I would like to institutionalize it and also make it grow bigger throughout the rest of the ASUCLA stores, such as Jamba Juice, because I know there's always long lines. And as students, that affects our retention because we are in those long lines, probably missing class the first 10 minutes. And as a retention counselor through Mechak al Mecak, I understand the importance of retention issues here on campus. And this will definitely help out students save time and maximize their Bruin experience.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for taking part in that. You have a minute each for your closing statements, starting from right.
Starting there or here?
Sitting here before you today, I am evidence of our power as students to dismantle unwelcoming institutions, departments, and oppressive norms. As a Brown student, I have had my presence and admission questioned. For this upcoming school year, my office will be used to empower students from all different backgrounds. As leaders on this campus, it is our duty to acknowledge our privileges and utilize that privilege to advocate for people so that everyone can feel welcomed and accepted in our Bruin community. Through my experience in various student organizations and as an academic peer advisor, it will be my intention to make sure Bruins are finding that experience at UCLA worthwhile and one that they will cherish forever. I haven't just been fired up this election cycle, but since I stepped foot on this UCLA's campus, and that is why I have been rooted in my community and working for them. USAC is more than throwing parties. It is about advocating for those who face the most challenging issues on our campus. I have not just been offering band-aid solutions to the retention issues of students, but advocating for change that benefits all students. I am ready to act, so vote Ireneo Garcia as your next
time. Thank you.
I want to be the voice that accurately represents our student body. My active engagement both in and out of UCLA has equipped me and empowered me to be a strong and effective leader for this campus. Through being the president of the Sixth Student Association, being involved in the Cultural Affairs Commission, being part of the Daily Bruin, Unicamp, and the Students of Color Conference, I've been able to understand and advocate for all communities both on a state and a local level. Nationally, I've advocated for the rights of Sikhs through the Sikh American Legal Defense and Education Fund, as well as through my experience with the Department of Justice. I am more than qualified to be your next general representative. I'm action-oriented and have engaged in deeply rooted ideology of social justice that will inform what I will stand for as your next general representative. We cannot act unless we listen. I'm ready to advocate for the issues that matter most. We must instill a fresh perspective in order to create tangible change. Let's convert our moves into movements, and together we can make this campus the best that it can be. My name is Manjot Singh. Let's act, but for real this time.
Time. Thank you. You have a minute.
A couple days ago, I was asked, why are you running for USAC? The first answer that came to mind was that I'm qualified, which I am, having held 2 director positions in the General Representative office. But as I thought further, I knew that the reason I was running was to show that positivity does not mean weakness. Communication with all does not mean silencing the few. Understanding the stories of others is not neglecting the story of your community and where you came from. Some may call it cliche, but to me, General Representative does mean to generally represent the diverse student body that we have on campus. And through my personal experience and platforms, I'm ready to realize the full potential of this office. UCLA is a place of building bridges, and I'm ready to lay the foundation for not only my office, but USAC as a whole to unite the student body. I'm Kevin Patterson. I am your next general representative, and we are Bruins United.
Thank you. Sachin, you have 60 seconds.
Hi, everyone, again. Yeah, going into closings, wow. Well, so I feel like all of you know my platforms. I can go into the traffic on the 405 scooter lane, blah, blah, blah. But I do have some new ones that I want to share with you, and I think this applies to all of us in here, so this is a good one. And I love the friendly environment that we all have here, really like collaborative. But I'm worried that tensions may rise after elections, and especially if the two people voted as Gen Rep 2 and 3 below me are from different parties. So what I want to do is I'll make sure that we'll use maybe some of the funds after the pay increases for Gen Rep to throw a party. Oh, I'm sorry. Throw a party for all of the parties, which I think will be a really cool. And the campaign managers, everyone, you'll all be invited. And I think that that'd be a really great thing. We'll all be drunk in love together. It'll be great. Yeah, but beyond that, I think we got the. Oh, you know what? 10 seconds. I love you guys. Y'all. Sorry.
I'm working on it too. It's okay.
Qualifications, platforms, initiatives, external experience. Everyone currently at this table is giving you a final list of things they've done that makes them a general representative. But let me tell you why I'm sitting here. I love UCLA. It's here that I found myself, but it is you, my fellow Bruins, that have shaped my experience. You have broadened my mind far beyond what I thought was possible. You have challenged every belief I held to be true and pushed me to truly find out who I am and what I stand for. I want to make sure every Bruin has the opportunity to find their passion and reach their full potential. That's why I want to make my office relevant to you through my own initiatives, but also by ensuring that your ideas are being heard throughout the year. It's been far too long since the Gen Rep office has evolved. It's been far too long since the council table has been unified. And it's time for a fresh perspective to be brought forth to bring this change USAC desperately needs. My voice on the council table will be one to unite council rather than divided. I am Fad Roth, I am your next general representative, and we are Bruins United.
Time, thank you. Please keep it down in between candidate closing statements. Dur, your turn, you have 60 seconds.
8 months ago, I wouldn't have imagined myself to be here. 8 months ago, I thought about leaving UCLA. I wanted to quit, not because I was struggling academically or financially, though I have struggled in both, but because of the economic conditions my family back in Fresno was in. See, growing up, I didn't have access to basic resources, such as healthy food, health insurance, resources to higher education, and sometimes just even clothes. I realized going home would do me more harm than good. I decided to stay, so now I am here. I'm running so that I can be a resource, not only for my family, but also for the UCLA community. As your next general representative, it is my responsibility to address the current needs, issues, and interests of students. Thus, I would take proactive measures to fulfill those needs. I work towards unifying the campus, which is what Fired Up is about. Rooted in the community, I am Der Zhang, your next general representative, and I am fired up for change.
Thank you. Please do not cheer between closing statements. Thank you. You have a minute.
I am the best candidate for general representative because I have the skills, passion, and drive to make USAC relevant to students again. Through my leadership in Salmon Filipino and other student organizations, I have worked directly in communities that USAC impacts, and because of that, I understand the weaknesses that need to be addressed to best serve UCLA students. USAC is currently irrelevant to the typical UCLA student because it has not been used effectively in addressing the diverse issues that students face. As your next general representative, I will be that person to make that change. I will establish institutional change and implement social programming to foster community, cross-community building and amplify the student voice. I will be a general representative who will always advocate for the student voice and ensure that USAC and UCLA is first and foremost for the students. I am ready to hear your voices, to know your needs, and to advocate for you as Bruins. I am Francesca Rebasura. I am your next general representative, and let's act.
Thank you. You have 60 seconds.
There were mounds of trash surrounding the shanty room that was deemed a schoolhouse. When I opened the door, I saw a room full of kids with tattered clothes, but what I noticed was their smiles. This was their chance to break the poverty cycle. Summer 2010, I was teaching elementary kids in the slums of India, but it was I that was learning. For many, education is not a right, it is a privilege. At UCLA, I am privileged to meet with different perspectives on a daily basis. I am privileged to receive education from professors who are pushing the boundaries in their respective fields. And I am privileged to be sitting in front of you all to be running to be your next general representative. My platform next year are centered around education. Education is powerful. Higher education is inspirational, and UCLA is life-changing, or at least it has been for me. Next year, I want to create that same environment for every student on this campus. I'm ready for change. Are you? My name is Nihal Satyadev. I'm your next general representative, and we are Bruins United.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. If I could have the EVPs get down here as soon as possible, thank you. If I could have everybody sit down, please, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all each have 1 minute for your opening statement. We will begin from left to right.
Hi, Bruins. My name is Aurelia Friedman, and I am running with Bruins United to be your next external vice president. I like to share my story with you. While most people learn to speak as babies, I did not learn to speak in full sentences until I was in 2nd grade. After years of speech therapy and bullying, I only began to find my voice when I came to UCLA and joined the EVP office as a freshman. In an office where I often felt pressured to stay silent because of my difference in opinion, I found the courage to speak up. And that is what I want to do for you as EVP. I want to make sure you are never silenced and that you always have a voice through my office. After 2 years in the EVP office, I know that I am strong enough now to not only speak for myself, but additionally to be the voice of student advocacy for the entire UCLA undergraduate student body. My name is Aurelia Friedman. I am your next EVP, and I know our voice is stronger when we are Bruins United.
Thank you very much. You have 60 seconds.
Hello, my name is Angel Garfield, and I'm a 2nd year. I come from Santa Paula, a town where people are allowed 3 options. You can join a gang, you can get into drugs, or if you're fortunate enough, you could be part of the 10% that is offered the resources to get to higher education. I'm proud to say that I work with one of the 4 Native American boarding schools left in the United States. Understanding my community's conditions, as well as the community that I work with, are what encouraged me to run for your next external vice president. As EVP, I'm here to reshape the office because I believe it can do better. I will extend its office duties into co-partnering with our surrounding community of Los Angeles. External connections are made by working hands-on with the community and understanding the students of UCLA. As external vice president, I will work directly with our community on the local, state, and national level to advocate for you, the students on our campus. My name is Angel Garfield, and I'm fired up.
Thank you. You have 60 seconds.
Hey Bruins, my name is Karan Contreras and I'm your LESAC candidate for external vice president. I'm here sitting in front of everyone because I am the only candidate with 3 years of experience in the EVP office. I've shown my leadership fighting for students on campus in Sacramento and in DC. But most importantly, I'm here because as a queer Filipino immigrant, I have been told I would never be here. And I'm here, UCLA. I'm here for my parents who have continued to fight for me since we moved to America, even though they still had to fight for themselves to be recognized as an American. I'm here to inspire and make a statement that broken English does not measure an individual's success. I will not let anyone invalidate my experiences in the community as a 1.5 generation college student who has grown and served my community, knowing that the racist education system that we have was built to control and divide us. I'm Connor Contreras, and I'm your next external vice president. Let's act.
Time. Thank you. The first question. Students are often unaware of decisions of the regents and have poor knowledge on external matters that you might advocate for. What will you do to make external affairs more relevant to these everyday students?
Thank you for that question. I have been a student advocate to the Regents 2 times now, and it has been an extreme privilege. But most students don't get this opportunity. Every bi-monthly meetings, including only 6 students, does not do justice to the student voice and student power. I want to make sure that we are bringing Regents to campus next year, as well as making sure that we have strong coalitions on the local level to advocate to these Regents. Thank you so much.
So as you mentioned, not many people even know what the External Vice President's Office does and its importance here on campus. What I'm going to do when I'm in office is really repopularize the idea of student engagement within the government. Not only at UCLA, but on the local level of the greater community of Los Angeles. Specifically, my platforms include tying in co-partnerships with Los Angeles and making that relevant to UCLA because it does matter. These issues do matter, and I'm here for the students to express that. Thank you.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
I want to touch on a couple more initiatives that I plan on implementing next year to make the EVP office more relevant to students, including voter registration on the Hill. We need to expand our outreach to different parts of campus that are not usually tapped into, such as the Hill, and create local internships with district offices so students get to lobby their representatives on a consistent basis, not just every Friday or so like that. Thank you.
You have 30 seconds.
The UC Regents are inaccessible to students. That's why I plan on bringing Regents to our campus. And something that I've actually already done is actually meet with UC Regent Bonnie Reese, and I've hosted that conversation with students. And something that we talked about is really listening to student stories and having those experiences, because that's what the UC Regents need, to learn about their experiences and to see the faces of the issues that they are talking about. And so that's what I'm going to plan to do, is bringing Regents to campus, and that's something that is already happening with my conversation with UC Regent Bonnie Reese.
Time, thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
An issue that is relevant to all students on campus is the Master Plan for Higher Education. It prioritizes affordability, accessibility, and quality of our education, and it currently is outdated. Next year, I plan on implementing a student system-wide committee within UCSA and working on it as a campaign for UCSA Congress and making sure that all students are educated about the issue.
The second question. UCLA is often incredibly active in campaigns at UC Student Association's Congress. What campaign would you like to see UCSA concentrate on next year?
A specific campaign that I really want to work towards with UCSA is, although we have tried to push for Ignite, I think the big problem that we have currently is that these efforts to actually push for SCA 5 were not very effective. And I hope that we all understand here that in order to be part of Ignite, we can say, you know, in essence, it's a good idea, but are we really, at the end of the day, are we really being effective? And unfortunately, with the last external vice president, that's not going too hot right now, let me be honest with you. So as your next external vice president, I will make sure that these issues with Ignite not only get pushed forward, but actually pass so that this can be implemented throughout schools, because at the end of the day, we have to increase graduation, not incarceration, by transforming education. Thank you.
Thank you. Conrad, you have 30 seconds. Please keep it down. Thank you.
So last summer, I was actually at UCSA Congress, and with a committee of people, with a group of students across California, I helped plan and organize the campaign that's beautifully held by the EVP Office Ignite, Investing in Graduations, Non-Incarceration, Transform Education. And that's something that I will prioritize next year, is in making sure that it's institutionalized within UCSA, because access and diversity should always be a priority.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to organize working for Ignite, but as I mentioned before, it really didn't do anything in terms of actually making moves. It's still not effective right now. I'll still talk right now. But it's still not effective, and it's still really not implemented in schools. What we really have to take is an approach to the community and involve the community. By creating these ties with Los Angeles, I will be that person to get the input from the community to push forward on Ignite. Thank you.
Thank you. Aurelia, you have 30 seconds.
UCSA Congress was an inspiring thing for me as a freshman and next as a sophomore as well. I plan on implementing the Master Plan for Higher Education campaign at UCSA this year, but I also want to create a public forum before I go to these summer conferences to speak on behalf of you, because your voice deserves to be heard, because these campaigns set the course for the entire year.
I also believe with the master plan, but just to address the forum that Aurelia is going to start, under the qualifications that we have, it says that you were able to lobby for us students, but let me make clear that the students that were lobbying for UCLA were handpicked directly, specifically under the external vice president's office. So if we're going to be talking about an inclusive forum for all students, let's cut the hypocrisies here. So to cut straight to the point, I would have to say that I will personally make it more inclusive for all UCLA students, because at the end of the day, this is a public position, and you all should be up here just as well as I should.
Time. Thank you. Sorry. Please do not shout. Thank you. Or say. Anyways, this last question is for you, Conrad. Will you lobby for issues that the UCLA student body might find controversial? If so, how will you address the needs of the students who aren't represented by your stance on this issue?
Controversial issues become controversial because they break the status quo. As a Filipino immigrant, I am not afraid to break the status quo, because the status quo has been historically protected and used to oppress many different communities on this campus. So yes, I will take a stance on issues, because it is my duty to be educated and to address and take action on these issues brought to the table. We are not just facilitators, we are advocates, and that's why I'm going to take a stance and advocate for the UCLA student body.
Aurelia, you have
I am so proud to be endorsed by both Bruin Democrats and Bruin Republicans, because it shows that I will have a very inclusive and open office for all diverse opinions. And that's what we need to bring to these conferences. We need to bring a diversity of opinion. And I plan on doing that by implementing a delegation selection committee, which will advise the external vice president and the state and national directors who can go to these conferences, because we need to make sure that all communities are represented at these conferences.
Thank you.
So an important element of being external vice president is being solution-oriented and goal-oriented. So Angel actually just talked about the Ignite campaign not being effective. So I just want to comment on that and say that yes, Ignite has actually been effective. I have lobbied Senator Carol Liu's office and talked about how we can incorporate and integrate students into the bicameral commission of diversity and retention and access to make sure that there is student voice. We are amplifying the student voice on this campus and across the state. So it's important that we recognize that.
30 seconds.
So getting back to the real question that they originally asked about how are we going to make this a more inclusive position, I feel, as opposed to the opponents that I have right now, when they're in the office trying to do work for the external vice president, I'm in the community, understanding the community's ideas and how we should be represented on this campus. Like I said before, I'm fortunate enough to work with Native Americans. Although I don't identify as a Native American, I'm able to use these skills in working with different communities and implement that at UCLA so that we get an inclusive background for all students here on campus.
Time. Thank you. Conrad, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I appreciate your work for the community. I actually have 2 years working for the community and serving high school students in the greater Los Angeles area. I have worked as a peer advisor in the community programs office as a space peer advisor, directly working with students to increase access to higher education. So yes, I have community experience, but also I have advocacy and experience, and that's what you need in the EVP office, is to have an advocate that knows about the issues and address them and is very dedicated to it.
Time. Thank you. Unfortunately, now we have to move on to our closing statements, just so that we do get out on time, and I apologize for that. You each get a minute, starting with Conrad.
At UCLA, I've learned what it means to become a student organizer, as I have challenged myself to learn about myself in relation to my community and to that of the UCLA student body as a whole. I am running to be your next EVP because I have the knowledge, the skills, and the relationships which are absolutely necessary in order to expand the work of the EVP office. Together, we have ignited the passion of students across this campus, across the state, and across the nation. I am the only candidate who has served on a national board of directors, which represents 4 million students. I have come to know what works and what doesn't work. Looking at my platforms, it is clear that I am the only candidate who understands the intricacies of the EVP office. I have a past in the EVP office, but I also have a future. I have the vision which will put UCLA at the forefront of the student movement. And like we say in the dance community, I know how to work it. My name is Karan Contreras, and I will work it in the EVP office next year. Let's act.
Time. Thank you. Please hold your applause between opening. Thank you.
As a slate, Fired Up is here to reshape what we have considered student government. We want to ensure that students have a voice and are represented at the council table. As your next external vice president, I am here to bring back the sense of community to UCLA. I will work towards redefining the external vice president's office by connecting UCLA to the greater community of Los Angeles. I will also advocate for increasing student loan forgiveness so that students can focus on education rather than worrying about the burden of taking out loans. Lastly, I will strongly advocate to bring back affirmative action because I have seen firsthand how our dispositions affect us directly when pursuing higher education. If I were here to build up my resume, then I'd be sitting with a different slate. So let's stop acting. Let's be real, because I'm going to be me and not be you because I'm fired up for change.
Thank you. Please keep it down until they're done. Thank you. You have 60 seconds.
I am running to be your next external vice president because I think every government should seek its directive from the people it serves and not pick and choose who it listens to. I'm running because I think the EVP office has a tremendous opportunity to affect student issues and to engage them in the political process. I am running because this is not what I have seen from the EVP office. Instead, the office has been plagued by low student engagement, poor fiscal management, and has become out of touch with the students it represents. If elected, I will make sure that we are empowering students to advocate for the issues that they care about most, not to serve a political machine to the loudest group in the room. I am running because it is time for change. It is time that we demanded more from USAC. It is time that we had an EVP who represents all of campus. My name is Aurelia Friedman. I am that EVP, and we are Bruins United.
Thank you. Thank you, EVPs. IVP candidates, please take your seats. Thank you. Audience, please take your seats. Audience, please take your seats. Thank you.
Evacuate everyone from this room, and we need to respect the candidates. So if we need to remove everyone from this audience, we will do that. Thank you.
I see who's yelling. I can easily kick y'all out. Please hold it. Thank you.
Oh, dear.
Candidates for internal vice president, You each have 60 seconds for your opening statements, beginning from left to right.
My name is Avinoam Baral, and I'm your Bruins United candidate for internal vice president. I did not start my journey in the hallways of Kirchhoff. My journey started on the second floor of 574 Hildgard at Hillel at UCLA. It was there that I found my Jewish family, and there that I found the confidence to branch off and pursue leadership across this campus in the Pediatric AIDS Coalition, Peer Health Exchange, or Hill Government. It's my passion for student organizations that has fueled my love for IVP. But it is my ability to combine my experience in student groups on the ground and my executive leadership in the office that makes me the best candidate for internal vice president. You don't need to look further than our review in the Daily Bruin to see the momentum we've built this year. And you don't need to look further than beyond this office to see that I'm the most qualified and most passionate person for this position. It's time to ensure that student group funding, student safety, and resources for transfers are at the forefront of the USAC agenda. Bruins, it's time to make the obvious choice.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. 60 seconds.
Hey Bruins, my name is Nagin Sadeghi Movahed, and I'm your Let's Act candidate for internal vice president. I transferred into UCLA in hopes of feeling part of its grand legacy. I soon realized there's a lack of support for transfer students to succeed on this campus. This has been embodied by the questioning of my legitimacy as a candidate, though I am the most qualified to be your internal vice president. I am an Iranian-American woman. I am a Muslim feminist. I am proud of my identity, though our oppressive society would call it hypocritical and uncommon. I have found my place on this campus in student groups who have embraced my identity as the badge of honor that it is. I've worked within my feminist and Iranian-American communities on and off campus for the United Nations Association, doing the same work as IVP on a larger scale. It is evident that there is a lack of representation of people like me on council, and the student groups that I belong to have been silenced. I will bring my passion, drive, experience, and integrity to the IVP office. Our student government needs to recognize our power. I'm an empowered transfer Bruin.
Thank you. Thank you. You have 60 seconds.
As a student involved in several organizations on campus and being involved with various communities on and off campus, I have recognized the need to bridge the gap between the 1,000+ student organizations on this campus and the influence the Office of the Interim Vice President has in doing so. When elected, that is exactly what I will do. It's time to cut the bureaucracy. Students need to be connected to their student government. They need to know that their voice is being heard and their issues are being addressed. I don't need in-house experience to know that our student government needs change. If experience means taking money from student orgs and stuffing my own pockets, then yeah, I don't have that experience. I don't want that experience. I will use the experience I have working with different communities and make the change to more accurately serve and represent the student voice that has been silenced by current and past elected officials. My name is Harbin Lasher, and I'm fired up to be your next internal vice president.
Thank you. Your first question.
Hi.
What will you do to improve the transparency and visibility of USAC, especially to students who feel disengaged from student government?
I absolutely agree that transparency is an incredibly important facet of USAC that has not been addressed enough. But when I'm talking about transparency, I'm not just talking about empty promises followed by ones and twos in the Daily Bruin. I'm talking about my experience in the office working on transparency, whether it be by bringing you resolution reform so that resolutions are brought on the USAC website before they're actually discussed on council, or bringing you USAC live stream that allows you to be connected to your student government, whether you're in Kirchhoff 417 or watching Game of Thrones in your dorm room. And finally, I brought to you a mid-year budget review that allowed you to have a better knowledge of where your USAC fees were going. These are just some of the things that I've already done, and I plan on continuing and expanding upon those efforts next year.
Nagin, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I would just like to address the live stream portion of what you had just said, because most students don't watch the live stream, so I wanted to make sure that we're consolidating information about transparency in my Take Back USAC initiative, which will allow for all of us to be able to access USAC decisions through that initiative by providing monthly reports to student groups, which is the most accessible way to reach students on this campus is through student groups, because that's where most students are involved in. And so acknowledging transparency through student groups is exactly what my plan is, and let's act.
Time. Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
I agree. We need to engage student groups in the USAC process. And that's the work that we've done this year in the office. With our student group liaison program, we've outreached to over 600 organizations on this campus. And that's what I'm gonna do next year, is include in the emails that we send to those student groups more information about what's going on at their student government. So that it's not just about learning about the funding resources, but also what's being discussed at the council table.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. This is a great question. USAC has turned into a self-interest group. USAC has become exclusive. USAC needs to be inclusive of all students, the entire student body, and not just certain student groups. I will accomplish this through my platforms, a non-denominational prayer space, encouraging students to co-program, collaborate, come together, learn about each other's communities, learn about each other's struggles, and learn about each other's issues. USAC needs to be given back to the students. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
I'm excited that both me and my opponent share the idea that USAC needs to be facilitating cooperation and collaboration between student groups. But the difference between me and my opponent is that I actually have the relevant experience to make that happen. I've actually been the chief of staff of the office this year, and I know what it takes to work with different student groups all across this campus.
Thank you. The second question. What would you say are the most underrepresented student groups on campus, and what concrete plans do you have to meet their needs?
Thank you for that question. That's actually a very great question. And in communicating with student groups, since the time that I've been at UCLA, I've been able to realize that the undocumented community is severely underrepresented within spaces like USAC. In addition to that, Queer Alliance had expressed their concern over the lack of communication between the IVP office in particular and the Ally Week that had happened recently. And so as IVP, I'll make sure to foster those communications and that respect that USAC has for student organizations to come and communicate with them on exactly what they want. And through my concrete plans like Take Back USAC initiative, we'll have student organizations be able to sponsor their own resolutions at the council table, in addition to having a common funding application that I've worked with administration to develop a plan to make sure that it's online as soon as the school year starts next year. So student groups will immediately have access to the online common funding application. In addition, I feel like this paradigm that we've created is marginalizing certain—
Time. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a great question. This is not about one underrepresented communities. It's about all underrepresented communities. USAC needs to address the issues of all these communities, including the LGBT community, including the undocumented community. And one way that I will implement this is through my initiative of co-programming, encouraging students to come together, encouraging students to have more hands, more volunteers to program successful events. Thank you.
Time. Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
While I agree with my opponent, I think co-programming is going to foster that mutual respect that I've been talking about. I do think that also concrete resolution reform is going to make sure that the issues that are at the forefront of student groups will be addressed by USAC members, so we can take back USAC together and take back USAC as the student groups, because that's who has the power and that deserves the power.
Thank you. Avinam, 30 seconds.
I agree with my opponent, but a simple bylaw change is not going to be enough to really reform resolutions at this council table. But I definitely agree that there are underrepresented, there are groups that have not been addressed enough by USAC. And that's something that we at Bruins United take very seriously. In my own initiatives to expand resources for transfer students, or with Nihal Sajidev to expand our outreach to South Campus students, or even our other general representative, Fabian Roth, to address international students. It's something we take very seriously, and it's part of our legacy of the Bruins United.
Time. Thank you.
Do I have a response? Okay. Though I disagree with you that a simple bylaw change will actually promote and amplify the student group's voice. In addition, transfer students, which has been brought up, and by the way, I'm not a token transfer student. I deserve to be here, and I'm more than qualified to be here. I think that transfer students should be not spoken for by traditional students who don't understand what it's like to be a transfer student. So make sure you speak to the transfer student community before you speak on behalf of the transfer community.
Thank you. The third question. We all know there's tensions in election season, and they continue throughout, USAC. How have you facilitated good relations between conflicting parties previously, and how will you bring this experience to USAC?
Well, personally, I think I'm a pretty personable guy. Any one of y'all can come approach me and we could have a conversation for days. But it's about the student body as a whole. There are tensions between different slates and different parties within USAC. But to benefit the student body as a whole, we have to put those tensions and those differences aside. We have to come together, and we have to come together to make effective change that will benefit the whole student body. It's not about our personal agendas. It's not about our personal goals. It's about the students. It's about you. It's about me. It's about us.
Thank you.
I agree slates have a place, and that place is 6th week of spring quarter and nothing else. I've had experience on this campus working with different organizations, such as my sophomore year, and I work with the Muslim Student Association to advocate for more dining opportunities on the Hill for both of our communities. And that's the kind of relevant experience that I bring to you as your next internal vice president. And next year on the council table, I look forward to fostering council unity by working with my future USAC president, Sunny Singh, on a council-wide initiative such as mental health to make sure that all council members are involved.
Thank you.
Thank you for the response. I agree with Avinoam that tension should be only exist 6th week of spring quarter during voting season, not during the regular school year when we are making decisions about the students, about this campus. One way that it comes down to personal responsibility. It comes down to personal responsibility in the sense that we have to put aside our differences. We have to know what's best. We have to make these decisions without our personal differences.
Time. Thank you. Nagin, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I'd actually like to address what my opponent, Avinoam, had said about the working with Muslim students regarding the particular issues about our campus. You did not sign, the IVP office did not sign the press release that MSA had compiled in order to talk about Islamophobia. So I'm not even going to go into that. I'm going to talk about my Meet the Org Mixers, which is a way to foster communication between different student organizations and mutual respect over free food and free drinks.
Thank you. 30 seconds to respond.
I'm glad that my opponent has brought her platform of Meet the Org's Mixer up. That shouldn't even be a platform. As the IVP, you are the liaison between the various student groups on campus. It's your duty to educate the various communities on this campus about the different student groups. It shouldn't be a platform. That's in the bylaws. That's your duty. Thank you.
Thank you. You each have 1 minute for your closing statements, starting from right to left.
Thank you. Tonight, I am making the firm statement that I am the student body's best candidate for the internal vice president office. My opponents will say that I lack proper experience to bring effective change to this campus, but to them, I say that I have more than enough experience. My experience lies in the fact that I'm rooted in the community and share the many struggles of both students and student-initiated organizations. Right now, we are at a crossroads. We are at a crossroads. We can choose to stay on this course, to stay on this road, a road that takes money away from students, a road that will not lead to change. Or we can take the other road, a road that will lead to change and that will give USAC back to the students and address the problems of this university's great diverse student body. Or with the many struggles of campus life, we must make a change to ensure that all students are given the right resources to thrive and become tomorrow's leaders. I will be this change. My name is Harwin Lasher, and I'm fired up to be your next interim vice president.
Time. Thank you. Thank you. 60 seconds.
Gathering knowledge from working with the Iranian American Women Foundation, Bruin Feminists for Equality, 7,000 in Solidarity, and the United Nations Association, I know that I am the most qualified candidate to be your next internal vice president. Many claim to support equal representation of all students in student government. However, they fail to acknowledge the elitism in excluding me from this executive position. Bruins, I now ask you to think critically about the dynamics of our campus culture, climate, and legacy, about the rhetoric regarding in-house experience, and whether that truly translates to completed work or merely a title, about making sure that this institution is listening to you and taking action on student issues. My name is Negin Sadeghi Movahed, and I am ready to be your next internal vice president.
Thank you. Avinome, you have 60 seconds.
IVP, the Bruins United legacy. Two things that go hand in hand. In just a couple of years, we have turned this office into a powerhouse. We initiated the student group liaisons, created the off-campus living fair, institutionalized Ally Week, brought you the first ever spring activities fair, received the White House's attention for our work on a mobile safety application, and so much more. I have had a hand in this legacy. As the chief of staff of the office, I haven't just gotten 5s and 4s on my daily Bruin review. I've overseen a staff of 50 students and 20 fellows dedicated to student group outreach, to the safety of UCLA students, to the transparency of our student government, and to putting on relevant programming for our student body. We need experience. We need a relevant and responsible USAC, and we need tangible platforms. We need another Avi in this office.
Please stay quiet.
I'm Avi Noam Baral. I'm your next internal vice president, and we are Bruins United.
Time. Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Thank you for being quiet. Thank you. Next. If I could have you sit down, please. If I could have you, no. Please sit down. The presidents are not next. Stop cheering for them, please. Thank you. Sorry. If I could please have you be quiet. I do see who's cheering. I will kick you out. Thank you. Next, we have our Arts Restoring Community referendum. Thank you. Good job. Half an hour. You have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carlos Quintanilla, and I am the Finance Director for the Social Awareness Network for Activism Through Art, as the representative for the Arts Restoring Community referendum. As someone who has been so actively engaged in the arts community through numerous organizations, I want to share with you all how meaningful this referendum can be with your support. This referendum can bring tangible change to campus by providing funding to like culture nights, concerts, dance events, spoken word events, theater events, and so many others. Arts programs on this campus facilitate dialogues on important issues and increase cross-cultural communication. And at a time when our campus climate seems so negatively affected, this is extremely important. This referendum is so necessary because organizations on this campus need stable sources of funding that will be accessible only to student organizations and won't be affected by the USAC surplus or touched by USAC offices. This referendum will create $100,000 of funding for arts programs and adds an additional $33,000 for financial aid. Support learning outside of the classroom. Support artistic and cultural expression. Support ARC. Thank you.
Thank you. Why do you feel that it is important to create an independent fund for these programs specifically?
Okay. We need a specialized funding source for arts programs on this campus, because oftentimes it is these arts programs themselves that are the most expensive and that need the most capital to be organized. And arts programs on this campus represent something that is so crucial in making sure that we are increasing conversations on difficult issues. From personal experience in my work in in Sanaa, we've organized events such as the Vagina Monologues, which educate students on issues affecting women on this campus. And these sort of events are the kind of projects that the Arts Restoring Community referendum will fund next year.
An opinion piece written 2 weeks ago in the Daily Bruin expressed concern that the measure lacked a clause to ensure that money would go directly to student groups and not to USAC commissions. The author expresses concerns that the fee increase could simply, quote, end up padding USAC's budgets, end quote. What is your reaction to such claims?
When the referendum was presented to our USAC council, we made certain compromises, and one of them was removing language that was too vague to ensure that USAC would not have access to this funding source. But next year, I will make sure that Sanaa and other arts organizations that are making sure to advocate to the Cultural Affairs Commission next year that this funding source is solely reserved for arts organizations on the campus, because it is the student organizations doing this work that need the funding, not USAC next year. Oh, no, I'm good.
That's good? Okay, perfect. Those are the questions we had for you. Thank
Okay,
you.
awesome.
Do you want a closing statement?
Oh, yeah,
you get 1 minute.
Sorry. Okay. If you've ever attended an arts event, then you understand the importance on this camp. Then you understand their importance on this campus. To make sure that we preserve the quality of these events and to make sure that there is growth within the arts at UCLA, we need to make sure that this referendum passes. By voting yes on this referendum, you will be ensuring that student organizations will have the opportunity to use their creative skills to educate students for years after everyone in this room has graduated. By voting yes on this referendum, you will ensure that the diverse communities on this campus have an outlet for cultural expression. And by voting yes on this referendum, you will remind our student body how important the arts are on this campus. Vote yes on ARC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I could have the community not cheer so that we can get the presidents on stage, I would greatly appreciate it. Presidents, go ahead and take a seat. Thank you. Y'all can cheer after their opening statements. If I could have your attention for a moment, I realize that it has been brought up that the transfer referendum is not being represented tonight. I am aware of that. We did reach out to the transfer referendum, and they decided not to represent themselves tonight. It is something that you should look into and learn about if you want. Thank you. Thank you, presidential candidates.
Thank you, everyone. Please keep it down. Please keep it down.
You have 1 minute for your opening statements, starting from left to right.
It was in Kissimmee, Florida, my first home in the United States, that I sparked my passion. Kissimmee is best known for its proximity to Disney World. And though my family was only a few miles away physically, it was certainly out of reach. My family didn't have much, to the point where the happiest place on earth seemed like a cruel joke. And yet, it was here that my father, who's here tonight, taught me the greatest lesson I've ever learned. He said, "Beta, son, success is attitude coupled with perspective." At a time when my mantra was gotta catch 'em all, and I dreamed of playing in the NBA, the wisdom seemed out of place. Now the truth of that statement has solidified. Never more so than in this past year. As tempers flared and ideas were challenged, I sought the perspective of my peers and kept an even demeanor. Tonight, you will hear plenty about my platforms. You will hear about how I will maximize postgraduate success and implement a comprehensive mental health.
Time, thank you.
I thought it was 1:30.
I'm so sorry, keep going, I'm so sorry. I am sorry, I apologize, continue.
There is more to being president than platforms and promises. The president is the face of the university, and I am confident that I will represent UCLA well. For me, it all comes back to that lesson in Kissimmee some 15 years ago. Attitude and perspective. I am the candidate with the right temperament for this office. I am the candidate with the right ideas for this office. I am the candidate with the wide-angled, long-term vision for this office. I am Sunny Singh. I am your next USAC president, and we are...
Thank you, time. I apologize for that. You have 90 seconds, my apologies.
Good evening, Bruins. My name is Devin Murphy, and I'm your Let's Act candidate for USAC president.
As a proud queer-identified African-American male raised by a working-class single mother, the journey that brings me before you tonight has not been an easy one. However, you all, as my community, the Bruin community, have played a vital role in my holistic development as a student leader on this campus. This is why I'm running to be your USAC president. It was not until UCLA that I came out as a gay man, even through the pain and fear of not being accepted. It was not until UCLA that I found the strength and learning the obstacles of my own African-American community on and off campus, a powerful history of struggle and resilience. It was not until UCLA that I began to build the compassion, understanding, and love for others that come from different backgrounds and experiences. The development of my identity has given me the agency and empowerment to address issues of all students. I am a firm believer in our power as students. I have seen the power embodied in the rich legacy of student activists that came before me and in my experience as a leader on campus. It is imperative to utilize USAC as a tool to create positive social change for all students. We are at our best when we stand together as Bruins. It is time, Bruins, that you elect a president who can work with you, not just for you. Bruins, act with me and vote Devin Murphy as your USAC president. Let's act.
Time, thank you. You have 90 seconds.
All right, hello, hello. All right, cool. What's up, everybody? So my name is Rohit Maharaj, and I'm representing Miriam Rodriguez today for the Office of the President. So she just had a little statement that I wanted to say before I go into the opening. So Miriam Rodriguez is fired up, and hold up. So when I say I, it's gonna be Miriam, everybody. It's not me, FYI. So I am Miriam Rodriguez, and I'm the fired up candidate running to be your next president. Under medical guidance, I'm unable to be here with you all today. I apologize for my absence, but rest assured that I am still fired up to be an advocate for all student concerns and communities. So I guess I just want to start off by stating that the 3 platforms that Fired Up is running upon, or our main pledges, is that students first, not USAC. All the students, like this year's USAC has not been transparent. They have been increasing their own stipends. They have been putting money towards their own initiatives, and we want to put that money towards the students, the body themselves, basically. The other platform is Unifying UCLA and dealing with campus climate issues. So it's Unify UCLA, Strengthen Campus Climate, basically trying to address the issues of campus climate on this campus, because there is a hostile campus climate that has been created by USAC, by the institutionalization of USAC, and through the programmings that, the programmings are not addressing their full-on needs. And the last one is electoral reform. Going through this process, the whole process is kind of BS. Let's all be real. We all need to reform the way endorsements are done. We need to reform how debates are done. We need to reform how elections are run.
Time, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Your first question. If elected, what will be the biggest priority on your agenda? What will you do to address it? And what have you done to ensure the feasibility of this platform?
Thank you very much for your question. I think that it's a 2-part question. Number 1 is what my biggest concern as a USAC president will be. And that's going to be leading the council table in a manner that is fair, impartial, and recognizes the voices of all student groups and all council members. But in terms of my platforms, one of the ones that I'm most passionate about is my campaign to introduce a comprehensive mental health campaign. And I'm excited that my opponent, that one of my opponents shares a similar concern. I've already reached out to administrators, both here. I reached out to administrators at UCLA, but have begun reaching out to local elected officials to make sure that we can do that we can expand mental health resources and support, because the finances to do so have to come outside of this university. So I know that the LA County Board of Supervisors that oversees public mental health is going to be incredibly important in making sure that this happens.
Time, thank you. You'll have 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you for that question. I believe, as the Chief of Staff this year, that there is no single priority that the USAC president has to deal with. That said, I'm glad that my opponent has a mental health campaign because I know what campaigns are about. I helped run 7,000 Solidarity. And so I know the institutional knowledge that needs to be done in order to run a successful campaign and not something that's a broad platform on a piece of paper. As your next USAC president is institutionalize a USAC campaign around mental health so that students are understanding the importance of that issue.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
My opponent mentioned how he worked on the 7,000 Solidarity campaign this year, and I commend him for his efforts initially. But it's important to recognize that simply starting doesn't mean you've been involved at the end. There's a reason that the Office of the President is no longer involved in the campaign now, and I will ensure that next year, throughout the year, I will be dedicated to the ideals of my mental health campaign, to make sure that it's relevant to all students, to make sure that it is free of tarnish, and that we can move forward in the best, most productive fashion.
Time. Thank you.
Just a rebuttal? For that question? Oh, so I guess the number one priority for Fired Up is that we need to bring it back to the community and the student groups. Student groups need to be recognized and be able to provide the support for them so they can do their programmings as well as be able to do anything they want to do. That'd be the main priority, is trying to take it back to the students, bring it back to the community. That's what we're all about, community work and bringing it back to the students. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
I think that what Rohit, Miriam says is important. And I think that he makes an excellent point, that we have to go back to the community. And that's why I look forward to working with Bruins United candidate for internal vice president, Avinoam Baral, and expanding the student group liaison program. This year, the IVP office under Avi Oved reached out to 600 groups. And I know that under Avinoam, it can reach out to all 1,000 plus student groups that we have on this campus to make sure relevant issues are being addressed.
Time. Thank you. The next question is for you. What do you think the president's role should be at the council table and in daily interactions with other council members' offices?
The president's role at the council table is to be a consensus builder, a coalition builder, someone who knows how to build relationships with key individuals in order to get things done and act. As the co-chair of the student-initiated yoga committee this year, I was able to bring together different campus units across the campus, ORL, the Student Retention Center, Community Programs Office. I was able to bring admissions, financial aid office, all of these entities on campus and with student groups and make sure that we were having a conversation around how we're bringing our admitted students from underrepresented communities onto this campus and that we're advocating for the resources for them. That is what I need. That is what your next USAC president needs to do. They need to be a consensus builder who knows how to bring together and people with different issues, people with different priorities, and make sure that we work on issues together and that we're a voice for the 28,000 undergraduate students on this campus. And that's what I will do as your next USAC president.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
All right. So we believe that the USAC president is supposed to set the vision for the council table. You have to have the ability to lead the council table, and it is a team dynamic. They are the team leader. And this year, there's been a failure to lead the team. If you look at what has happened at USAC this year, if you look at the transparency issues, there has been a failure to lead, and we need to take it back. Because if you look at how divestment went down, that resolution, there was a lot of hate speech that was happening. There was a lot of people that should have been kicked out that room. There should not have been a secret ballot for that. We need to be able to bring it back to the community and be able to address serious issues. The leader, the president needs to lead.
Thank you. Thank you. Devin, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yes, I'm actually excited that Miriam's representative brought up vision because I'm a large visionary and that's what I do. I have all platforms rooted in community and student issues and they will provide a vision for the council table. One of the things I want to do is bring the discussion around diversity and how it affects us all as students back onto the council table. USAC has not talked about diversity enough, and in fact, one of my opponents voted against something that would promote diversity on our campus. And so my role now is to make sure I'm creating that vision and making sure I'm a visionary for the council table as well as the campus.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
In my opponent's initial remarks, he mentioned that he would meet with key people. I think that is a misguided notion. He needs to meet with all members of the council to ensure that the entire council can move forward productively. John Jonino did that right after being elected in the spring. I commend his efforts then. But next year, as your next USAC president, I'm going to build on that. And I'm going to meet with council members regularly to make sure that we're working together throughout the year so that we can take collaboration and cooperation back onto the council table.
Time. Thank you. 30 seconds to respond.
Yes. Also, let's talk about USAC accountability, because that's an important issue. And so, yes, I should be meeting as your next USAC president with all the council members, and I intend to do that. And I want to link that back to one of my platforms. This quarter, I institutionalized with student media a student issues forum where we talked about what student groups wanted. And so I want to do that along with the rest of the council members so that people are holding your council accountable as well as your USAC president accountable. And that's what I'll do as your next USAC president. Thank you.
Thank you. Your third question.
As a quick question, would you like to be referred to as Rohit or Miriam? Rohit or Miriam?
Put me as both, bro. Both. You got me.
Got it.
Be cool.
Sorry.
Thank you. As president, or as Miriam is president, you will also serve as the face of UCLA and be an advocate for students in interactions with administrators. What do you think are the most pressing issues facing students on campus, and how would you bring these up to UCLA administration and work to see them addressed?
Oh, this is a good question, everybody. So, the key pressing issue on this campus, I think, is campus climate. Everybody's been talking about it, but where's the action at? I know myself, Miriam, other individuals within Fired Up, we have met with administrators. We have talked about these issues. We've talked to the Associate Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs about like how can we better the campus climate. And in the end, our conclusion has been that we need less administrative involvement and we need more student involvement. Students need to come up with the ideas themselves and be able to implement them. If the students themselves come up with the idea, they will be able to address the issue thoroughly and be able to work through them. Administrators, they're in an Eiffel Tower. They're in an ivory tower, everybody. So when they're trying to address these issues, they don't know what the real issues are. Students know what the real issues are, and that's what Fired Up's all about. Trying to work with administrators a little bit, but trying to do it student initiative, student run. That's what our motto is. But working with administrators is key, be able to start the dialogue, and we have been doing that. So, you know, we have experience talking to administrators, we have experience talking to the community, and that's the work we do, community work. I'm fired up.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
I agree with many of the things that Rohit and Miriam just said. I think that two important issues also to be bring up are postgraduate success and mental health. And to that end, I've met with the Dean and Vice Provost of Education, Pat Turner. We've talked about how, for example, we can have faculty include mental health resources on their syllabus. It's a small change for faculty, but it's a big change for us as students to know that the faculty supports us, is looking out for us, is in providing us the resources for us to be healthy.
Time. Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Okay, cool. So once again, the other aspect that I think that we can strengthen upon is that we need to be able to support student groups the best, whether that be talking to administrators, whether that be talking to various outside individuals, community individuals, because we know how to hustle to get for money. We're the ones that have raised our own funds to get our funding done, and we will be able to work in order to support student groups even further. And the final thing that I think is important is electoral reform, everybody. That's what we're all about. Change the system. Thank you.
Devin, you have 30 seconds.
I'd like to go back to the original question and talking about key student issues that are important at the council table and also around our campus. One of the things I've done this year is intern for the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, where I really got to touch on what students are dealing with on this campus. And one of the biggest issues is our retention as students. And that means us graduating and also being prepared for our postgraduate education. And that said, one of the things I've done was expand the economic crisis response team that really helps students on this campus deal with their economic crises. And when they come to this campus and they're dealing with something that they don't even know.
Thank you.
Yes.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
All right. So I guess for myself and for Miriam, we're all about against the system. We don't believe working for administrators so that they can pay our bills, so that, you know, they can be able to hold us accountable in that manner. We believe student issue, student run. We work with administrators, but we don't want to get paid by them, nor do we want to get like any kind of benefits for them. So that's my main topic, is that, you know, we're just anti the system, everybody. Fight the power.
Thank you. UCLA, as aforementioned, is a university that prides itself on its steps to promote diversity and inclusivity. What sets your understanding of diversity and inclusivity apart from your competitors? And how will you promote diversity and inclusivity on this campus?
Diversity and inclusivity are the core tenets of this university. It's what makes our it's what makes our experience here at UCLA unique. From the moment we come onto this campus, we learn not only from our classes and our professors, but from one another. And one of the most incredible learning experiences in my life has been my time as an RA here on the Hill. Through that experience, I've met with hundreds of students. I've gotten to know what their experience is like. And so regardless of where they are or where they come from or what they believe, it's important for all students to feel like they belong at UCLA. And that deals with inclusion, that deals with equity, that deals with diversity. And so next year, it's something that shouldn't just be addressed by my office, but by all offices in general. And I think that I think that's one of the considerations that I want to put forward to the council as a council-wide initiative.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
Yes, you asked what sets us apart from our opponents around diversity and inclusivity. One thing that sets me apart is I'm about action. I've been an advocate on this university, talking and acting around diversity and inclusiveness. As a campus tour guide on this university, I've been proud to highlight the diversity that we have, but also as your next USAC president, one of the things I want to do is make sure that I'm promoting diversity on our campus. And I've been working with the Associate Vice Chancellor, Yolanda Copeland-Morgan, around ways that we can increase diversity on our campus and make sure our student diversity is important. Thank you.
Thank you. 30 seconds to respond.
Over the past few weeks, I've met with Karen No and Bob Williams, both members of ASUCLA executive team. And through that, I've institutionalized a new program that's going to be coming to Ackerman. In homage to the Black Experience mural that stands next to Panda Express right now, there will be a series of rotating murals where students and student groups will have an opportunity to display their experience and their life here on campus. So we can help create an environment that fosters understanding in one of the most trafficked areas of our campus.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I guess what sets Miriam and Fired Up apart from everybody else is that I think diversity and inclusivity has become a buzzword on this campus. It's become a buzzword for administrators. It's become tokenized. How can we seriously address these issues when it's just become tokenized now? And that's like how we just differentiate ourselves straight out. But just being part of the Pacific Islander community, Marion's part of the American Indian community, they already feel like underrepresented in this community. So how can we work with small groups like, these groups in order to address these issues and be able to talk to them and be like, what do you need on this campus? What can we do for you kind of thing? That's how you bring diversity to this campus.
Thank you. Surrounding that topic, one major debate.
I have a rebuttal.
So sorry, continue.
Well, not really a rebuttal, just a comment. I agree with what Rohit and Miriam just said. I think that it's important for USAC to outreach to all different types of communities. And so that's why I look forward to working with everybody in this room after election season, because it's like the Bruins United candidate for Internal Vice President Avinoam Bral said. It's like politics have a role and they have a place, but that's only during elections. Moving forward, we have to disband that because we're stronger when we're Bruins United.
Thank you, and my apology. Next question. As such, one major debate that occurred this year on campus was the divestment hearing. How do you feel this affected campus climate? In what ways was the issue handled well, and how would you have handled it differently? I would really appreciate your guys' respect to stay silent through all of their y'all's. I'd really appreciate y'all's respect to stay silent throughout these whole questions and answers. Thank you so much, and I apologize. Thank you.
So thank you for that question. The divestment hearing that we had, and I assume you're talking about around the resolution to divest from companies that profit off the occupation of Palestinians. I think when we talk about that issue, we really note how important it is that controversial issues are at the forefront of what USAC is talking about. That's when we talking about issues as the way we get past the issue, right? A lot of people think that as students and as Bruins that we should hide away from it, right? But what that does is it ignores the issue and it ignores what we're dealing with as students on this campus. And so my goal as your next USAC president is to continue those conversations. We have to have those conversations on this campus in order to be effective, in order to get change done, and in order to really do action that we say we're going to do around this election period. And so that's what I plan to do, and I hope that I do that as your next USAC president.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
All right. So the positives about the divestment resolution, I think just getting the dialogue started, that was the only positive, everybody, just throwing it out there. But there was a lot of negatives, because I think there was a lot of negatives in it. I think the main negative was there was a lot of hate speech and bigotry that happened within that resolution process that should not have happened. I know Miriam, myself, and fired up candidates would have kicked people out and said this has to be a moderate conversation about serious issues, as well as being able, the other aspect was a secret ballot. Why would you do a secret ballot in order for anything? Because if you're an elected official, you should be able to put your opinion out there without—
Thank you.
Okay.
You have 30 seconds.
Yes. Absolutely. So the representative for that is my opponent, spoke about hate speech. That's a very important thing that I really disliked about the divestment hearing, which as Chief of Staff of the President's Office, I stayed throughout the duration of the entire divestment hearing. One of the things I want to note is that the USAC President's Office signed onto a resolution by the Muslim Student Association that made sure we talked about the Islamophobia that occurred at that divestment hearing. Secondly, the secret ballot, I agree, it shouldn't have been done. And so my role, and that's why I have a platform related to transparency, is to make sure we're transparent in our decisions.
Time. Thank you.
I was present at the entire divestment resolution hearing, and I think that two of the main ways that it could have improved was, one, by the president having a better understanding, a better comprehensive understanding of Robert's Rules of Order. Outside of that, I think that the secret ballot was completely unacceptable. That's why I was such an outspoken advocate against it. But more than that, I think that moving forward, the president has to act as a facilitator, both on the council table and off of it. And by holding meetings and town halls related to this issue, we can move forward in a more positive fashion.
Time. Thank you. 30 seconds.
Absolutely. My opponent talked about Robert's Rules of Orders, and so that's one of the things I do want to prioritize being your next USAC president. This past summer, I was the chair of the National Student Congress for the United States Student Association, and one of the things I did was ensure that Robert's Rules was at order for all students and making sure that every voice was heard. I will be doing that as your next USAC president. That's a very important thing and skill to know, and I have those skills. Thank you.
Thank you. Third question, or excuse me, sixth, but last. Why should we trust you to be our president over your competitors?
So why should you trust Rohit, Miriam, Rodriguez, Maharaj to be president, everybody? I think you should trust us because we are from the community. We are grounded in the community. We are not part of the system. We have been doing community work. We have been fighting for issues outside of UCLA, within the UCLA campus, that is outside of student government. We believe in student initiative, student run. If students see an issue, they should be able to address it and be able to address it themselves. That's what we have been doing so far, and that's the experience that we bring to the table. As you can see by this year's USAC, there's been a lot. The president does not even know his own Robert's Rules of Order. There is no accountability in USAC anymore. How can we bring that accountability back across the board? Where's the accountability? Where's the transparency? So we are all about bringing back to the community, bringing it back to the students. The students should have the greatest voice in USAC, and we should be highlighting the students and student organizations right now. It is not about USAC. It is not about being in the ivory tower. It is being able to, how can you be able to change the system? How can you be able to change and be able to help students out? You know, fired up for change, everybody. Yay.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds to respond.
The president has the opportunity to lead the council table and set a vision for the entire student body. And next year, I hope to do that through my relevant platforms, by making sure that USAC is responsible and relevant, by maximizing postgraduate success, celebrating the Bruin experience, and addressing mental health. I think that I will bring to the council table and to the student body at large issues that they can unite behind, issues that are relevant to all of us and things that matter to all of us. And by doing that, I know that we can lead our university in a positive direction.
Thank you.
All right. So why would you want us as president? It's because we're cool, everybody. Let's be real. We're hella cool. But mainly, it's also about taking back to the students. It's all about our platforms as well. You know, we're talking about being able to give the money back to student groups, not to USAC. With the arts referendum, council removed the line that it could not go towards the commission. If we are elected, we will ensure that that money would be going towards student groups and not towards the commission itself. We would also be wanting to be able to address campus climate issues by doing student programming and highlighting student programs overall.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I absolutely love this question because I am the most qualified and trustworthy candidate at this table to represent all students on this campus. I served as the Chief of Staff of the USAC President this year, and we successfully fulfilled all our platforms. I worked as a student group leader as the President of the Black Pre-Law Association, and when council was talking about things like a stipend increase, that also affected me too. So I understand what student groups are feeling around that decision. One of the things I do as a campus tour guide is embrace what it's like to be a spokesperson for this university and for UCLA and for the student body. I can be a trustworthy candidate. I am your USAC president.
Thank you. 30 seconds to respond.
All right, so for the experience, we are not in-house candidates. We have community experience, we have organizational experience. Miriam, since she's been here since day one, has been working with the Native American community at UCLA. She used to work for AIR, the American Indian Recruitment Project, being able to go into the community, work with the community. She's currently the outreach coordinator. She is also the vice chair of the Student Initiative Outreach Committee, and she is trying to help students get into campus to UCLA. When we talk about diversity, you need students of color here. And how are we doing that? She has been working to address that problem overall. So, no in-house experience, but with a lot of community experience.
Thank you. Each of you will have a 90-second closing, starting from this side.
Oh, he doesn't get to say something? Oh, never mind.
No, yeah, I already talked.
Oh.
Yeah, he already talked.
All right. Cool.
Just before we do have those closing, because this is the last part, I would just like to thank y'all for coming. I know it'll get chaotic once that happens. Thank you so much for being here. As such, I would really appreciate you guys leaving calmly. From y'all, I'm so sorry. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Okay. I would appreciate y'all leaving calmly, and we would like to request that y'all do not congregate just outside the doors. Y'all can leave out either side, but don't just stand there because that's not going to help anybody else get out either.
Also, please make sure that y'all take your trash and that you look exits.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sustainability. Thank you.
Sustainability.
Thank you very much for coming.
Oh.
Y'all each have 90 seconds to finish up, starting from you.
So thank you everybody to coming out to endorse our debates, my bad. Me, myself, Miriam, and I. So one of the main things in order to close out is we want to put students first. We want to put students, student organizations first, highlight what they've done, and how can we better them. In our opinion, USAC has become an ivory tower that is lost touch with the students and the student body. How can we bring that back? And that is what we're bringing to the table, and that is what our overall vision is, that how can we be able to address student needs and student issues. I'm excited for my boy Harwin's 24-hour wooden platform, going to that gym 24 hours, gonna be a lot of fun. Angel Garfio's, being able to redefine EVP, bring it back to the community. I'm looking at Gabe's DACA scholarships, shout out to my boy, props for that. Jazz, pass the diversity requirement. I know you've been working through it for all year. Regardless if you pass it or not, or get it or not, you're gonna pass it. For Terry, being the Wi-Fi in South Campus, that's a big issue, Wi-Fi in South Campus. And for Dirt, I think trying to deal with transfer and international students, so, that's a great issue. But overall, we're all here talking, like, we all have these ideas, like, we're all like, let's act, we've done these things, but what have people really done? We need to be able to see, like, what is it? We need less talk and more action. We need to be fired up for change. We need to get some shit done in here. And overall, I would say, keep it a clean election process, everybody. Don't go too negative, don't go too crazy, and, have a lot of fun with it. Good luck with electioning.
Time. Thank you. Thank you. Please stay silent during this whole thing. Thank you. Devin, you have 90 seconds.
Yes, we do need action, and that's why there is no other candidate on this stage that is more qualified, experienced, or knowledgeable to be your next USAC president than I am. And no, I'm not just talking about simply my qualifications and experience in USAC, though I unquestionably developed those within the last 3 years. I'm also talking about my community-oriented involvement with several campus organizations. It is my role as a chief of staff from the USAC president's office that I work to address issues of affordability and sexual assault. As an intern for the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, I grasp the true understanding of retention, fighting for all students to not only graduate from UCLA, but to stand prepared for postgraduate matriculation and understand how to self-advocate through real-world issues. As a student organization leader and president of the Black Pre-Law Association, I found my community within the community. The accessibility of higher education is a privilege we must all recognize, and it's our responsibility to address the educational inequities that exist today so that generations tomorrow have greater opportunity. Bruins, we must act, but most importantly, we must act together. I am running to be your USAC president because I believe we have the potential to unify, to understand, and to trust one another to address our issues as students. A former USAC president once said, USAC can be the thing that changes lives. However, I would challenge that a bit further. When students recognize the importance of coalition building, not just serving their own community, the greater community, and act together, that's when we become relevant. Vote me, Devin Murphy, as your USAC president.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please stay quiet. Sunny, you have 90 seconds.
At the end of the day, we all know who we're voting for, and we know which slate we're supporting. And slates have their purpose, but they also have their place, and that's during election season. Once elections ends, regardless of which of the three of us on the stage wins, it's important to remember that we won't be elected as the president of Bruins United, or Let's Act, or Fired Up. We'll be elected as the president of UCLA. When we allow politics to impede progress, we're doing a disservice not only to ourselves, but to those that we intend to represent. This is something that I think we all are guilty of, letting our desire to win supersede our capacity for compassion. It goes back to what my father said in Kissimmee, Florida, attitude and perspective. That's why I'm so excited to hear so many perspectives tonight on mental health, on improving efficiency and transparency, and involving more people. But that's only half the equation. We cannot forget the importance of attitude. So as we head into 6th week, let's remember that we are all here to make this campus better, that we all have demonstrated leadership and foresight in our communities. To the candidates and their supporters, whom I have so much respect for, let's have a positive elections week. My name is Sunny Singh. I hope to be your next president, and we are all Bruins.
Thank you very much. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a good night.
Candidates.